Josh Bailey, ready to guide you through all of Saturday's games and all the 4 p.m. kickoffs. I know what you're thinking, Josh, you're normally in the reporter's chair. Yes, you would be correct. I normally am, but today I'm in the presenter's chair. Barry and Chris kept it warm for me last week, and today I'm ready to guide you through all of the 4 o'clock games. But shall we get going then? Because we've got some fantastic Premier League and Bundesliga games that reporters all across the country and the globe covering for you today. We've already had one game in the Premier League, and that was a 12:30 game against with Chelsea and Liverpool, and that was a brilliant game that ended 0-0. As for the 3 p.m. games, well, we have got West Ham v Everton, the battle of both managers that may be getting sacked. David Moyes or Frank Lampard, who will face the chop? Well, if either of them lose today, they could not make it to Sunday. We've got Isaac Dykes at the London Stadium covering that one for you. We've also got Leicester v Brighton with Matthew Key at the King Power Stadium. Leicester, well, the Foxes are fighting, but they're slipping down the table. And as for Brighton, well, the Seagulls, they're soaring, aren't they? In the top half of the table, and maybe they're going on a European charge. As for Southampton, the Aston Villa, that's our other game. That's Warren Bishop at St Mary. Southampton, under the new management of Nathan Jones, they picked up some form recently. They'll be aiming for a 4th win in a row. And Aston Villa, well, they're under Unai Emery's guideship after he took over from Steven Gerrard, who was sacked just before the World Cup. They've completely turned things around, has Emery, the former Villarreal manager, and he'll be looking to continue that form as his side travel down to the South Coast. As for AFC Bournemouth, the Nottingham Forest, that's another South Coast game. That'll be Matt Smith at the Vitality. I mean, Bournemouth, they're slipping down after O'Neill's brilliant caretaker form. They've now lost 6 in a row, and Nottingham Forest under Steve Cooper, well, their seasons have kind of gone in parallel directions because Nottingham Forest, they're rising up the table, and that's thanks to many players, most in particular Morgan Gibbs-White. We're asking Matt about how Gibbs-White has changed the fortunes round at Nottingham Forest. And as well for our Bundesliga featured game, we've got Union Berlin v Hoffenheim. That's Billy Andrews covering that game. Union Berlin, who are looking to get into the Champions League places today. We'll also be up to date on any scores around Europe or around the globe. That's also other games in the Bundesliga. We're talking La Liga. We're talking also in the Ligue 1 as well with their cup in the French leagues. Any game, any result, we will be covering it here on Football Live. We'll also be discussing a few other things, such as this evening's kickoffs v Newcastle against Crystal Palace. We'll also have Sunday's games, Arsenal v Manchester United, the big crunch game at the top as well. And we'll also be looking at this week's transfer news as well. There's been a flurry of ins and outs all across the globe, as well as talking to Matteo, who is our Serie A expert, our Serie A correspondent. We'll be talking about that 15-point deduction for Juventus and learning a little bit more about that. Well, here we go then. We are 10 minutes away from kickoffs all around the world and in the UK and in the Bundesliga. But shall we get some team news for you then? We're going to start off then West Ham v Everton with Isaac Dykes. Everton, they've just signed Dan Juma and they have no more Premier League victories. 28 Premier League victories in this fixture. That's more than against any other team. Isaac, both teams at the bottom. Give us some team news and how do you think this one's going to go?
Yeah, Josh, we've got a real battle at the bottom 3 here today. West Ham sat in 18th place. Everton just below them on 19th. West Ham at home, looks like we've got a back 4 today. Fabianski just behind them. Soufal on the right. Nayef Aguerd in the middle with Kurt Zuma and Emerson out on the left. A midfield pivot of Declan Rice, Angelo Ogbonna. And then a rotating attacking 3 of Jared Bowen, Lucas Paqueta, Saeed Benrahma. Spearheaded by Mikel Antonio, as always. Everton looking like we're going for back 5. Pickford in goal, as usual. Tarkowski, Cody and Mina in front of him, with a 5 flat, it seems, with Mikalenko, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Amadou Onana, Super Eagle, Alex Iwobi, and Seamus Coleman out on the right, with Damari Gray and Calvert-Lewin ahead of them to head the line. Notable subs to West Ham. We've got new signing Danny Ings on the bench, just arrived from Aston Villa, £15 million. And Everton, Anthony Gordon on the bench at the moment. Nathan Patterson still out injured, but he's been really key for them this season.
And as Isaac as well, if you want to talk about both these teams, Everton and West Ham, they're really, really struggling, aren't they? And I spoke about a little bit in that introduction, David Moyes, Frank Lampard. And we know for a fact that if David Moyes loses this game, he probably will be sacked as West Ham manager, as sources reported this week. Do you think that a sacking would be fair for Reed manager?
I think it'd be more fair for Frank Lampard. I think David Moyes should have credit in the bank for what he's given West Ham over the last couple of years. The European runs they went on last year was absolutely excellent. And as we all know, he's a quality manager who's succeeded in the Premier League before. So I think it might prove in hindsight a bad call if he was to go, but you can't argue with the results this year. Frank Lampard, I think he's got loads of work to do. Only 2 points from the last 7 Premier League games for Everton, with 14 goals conceded and only 4 goals for. He's got loads of work to do to try and turn this Everton side into more of a stalwart defence, and loads of work to do up top with Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Neil Maupay both faltering.
That is true. Neil Maupay as well, the man that has scored in 3 appearances against against West Ham, has actually scored in the London Stadium twice out of those 3 occasions as well. We're going to take a trip to the Midlands now, and we're going to head over to Leicester v Brighton. Matthew Key at the King Power Stadium, as we mentioned earlier. Brighton, they're looking to do the double over Leicester for the first time in the top flight since 1980 and 1981. They won that fixture 5-2, the reverse victory in what was Graham Potter's final game as head coach. Are we going to be seeing a similar score today, Isaac? Take us to the team news.
Hi there, Josh. I'm delighted to be at the King Power Stadium today, and it is a couple of changes for each team, which I'll run through now. So for the home team, Leicester City, who lost 2-0 away last week against Nottingham Forest in East Midlands derby. They've got 2 changes, with Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Dennis Pratt coming in, with Mark Albrighton dropping to the bench and Nigerian international Wilfred Ndidi completely out of the squad altogether. So for the Foxes, it is Danny Ward in goal, Timothy Castagna, Wout Faes, Daniel Amati, Luke Thomas, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, Ferland Mendy, Yuri Tielemans, Dennis Pratt, Harvey Barnes and Jamie Vardy leading the line in what looks like it will be a 3-4-3 formation for the home team. As for Brighton, as you mentioned, they're absolutely flying. They got one of their best Premier League results of all time last week, winning 3-0 at home against Liverpool. They sit 7th in the table because of that draw between Chelsea and Liverpool earlier. And they're just 5 points off the Champions League places. So for them, 2 changes as well. For the away team, they also look like they're going to be lining up in a 3-4-3 formation, with goalscorer Danny Welbeck coming into the team after scoring off the bench last weekend, and John Paul Van Hecke making his first start of the season and only his 2nd appearance in the Premier League all season. They come in for Ivan Ferguson, the young striker who drops to the bench, and Levi Colwill, which was a big blow for Brighton, losing him to injury for a few weeks. So for Brighton, the away team, it's Robert Sanchez in goal, Lewis Dunk, John Paul Van Hecke, Solly March, Alexis McAllister, Pascal Gross, Adam Lallana, Kuro Matoma, Moises Caicedo, Danny Welbeck and Pervert Estupinan. And I must say as well, Josh, Brighton sporting a very nice orange away kit.
Should we also then talk about further Leicester's start, and also Brendan Rodgers, who had this to say about Leicester's form so far?
Well, James Maddison's doing very well, so we're hoping that he can be involved in the squad at the weekend. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall has been back training, so he should be available for the weekend as well. So in terms of that, it's been really good. Dennis is trained this week, so he should hopefully come into the squad. Obviously, come on in the game against Nottingham Forest, so he should be fine. And Ayo, we just have to wait and see. If it's not this weekend, then he'll be fine for next weekend.
And as well, Matthew, just coming back to you briefly on that, I just want to talk about sort of Brighton's form, and have been so brilliant so far this season, kind of outscoring Graham Potter. The concern was always goals, but they've done so much better than that. What has been the turnaround for Brighton and Zebri?
It's an excellent question, Josh. You're absolutely spot on. Where Brighton were always a team that perform really well, but just didn't have the goals to reflect it, and it cost them many games. Whereas this season, they've already scored 35 goals this season, only conceding 25. And I think the change is just the amount of attacking players that the Seagulls have at their disposal. I mean, they've lost Leandro Trossard this week to Arsenal, who's their top goal scorer with 7, but they've got so many players chipping in. Pascal Gross has 6, Solly March, who scored a brace last week, has 4, and Matoma, who's only recently come into the side, already has 3. So they're providing goals not just from one source, but from multiple, which is so crucial for the teams like Brighton, who maybe haven't got the biggest squad. So to not be relying on one person all the time is absolutely crucial for them, and I think it's a big reason as to why they're in the position that they're in this season.
Yes, thank you for that, Matthew. That's going to be a fantastic game. Leicester again down in the relegation zone. But as I said, Brighton, they are charging into the top half of the table. We're going to go back to the South Coast now, and we're going to have Southampton v Aston Villa with Warren Bishop. But before that, we're also going to have a look at Southampton with them. We're going to have a look at Jacob Ramsey, the Aston Villa player, the opposition. He scored the last time these teams met, and Aston Villa defeated Southampton that time. There was two different managers in the dugouts that time. But let's have a look at what Jacob Ramsey had to say ahead of this all-important game.
Yeah, obviously since the bosses has taken over, we've played some big games. First 2 games were obviously against really good teams, and then obviously we had the away win against Spurs, which was really good. So I think now the bosses said don't get too comfortable. We've still got teams above us that we want to try and overtake. We've got some big games coming up, so we're looking forward to it. I think obviously everyone knows the ambition of this club. The minimum should be top 10 and then pushing up to Europa League football. So it looks like we've got a chance this year, and hopefully we can come out of that.
Well, as mentioned in the intro then when I was picking up all these games, Southampton, it wasn't a great start for Nathan Jones, but he's turned it around. They're going for 4 consecutive wins in all competitions. It's been a different story for Unai Emery, though, because he's come in and completely turned Aston Villa around straight away, earning 13 points in the last 6 league games under Unai Emery. Right now, though, it's Warren Bishop with the team news at St Mary's.
Yes, good afternoon, Josh, and good afternoon to all our listeners, and welcome along to St Mary's Stadium as the sun swarms the whole of the pitch. It is a light being finally shone on for Southampton's season under Nathan Jones. As you quite rightly say, they're looking for their 4th successive victory in all competitions. The last time they did that was back in 2016. For Aston Villa, they find themselves searching to break into the top 10 with victory today, and they've only lost once since the turn of the year under Unai Emery. Moving on to the team news, it's one change apiece. We'll start with Southampton, who bring in Adam Armstrong for Mohamed Elianusi. So it's Gavin Bazunu who starts in goal, Lianco, Kaletakar, Mohamed Salisu and Carl Walker-Peters as the back 4, with Romeo Lavia and Diallo in midfield. Edozie and Armstrong on the wings, with the informed James Ward-Prowse playing just behind Che Adams. The one change for Aston Villa that Unai Emery makes is a full start for Alex Moreno, who comes in for Luca Digne. So that's a 4-4-2 formation for Villa, with Emi Martinez in between the sticks. Ashley Young, Ezri Konsa, Tyrone Mings and Alex Moreno make up the back 4, with Jacob Ramsey, who we just heard from, and Emi Buendia on the wings, with Boubacar Kamara and Douglas Luiz sitting in midfield. And it's the front 2 who will be looking to replicate the form Danny Ings showed before his move to West Ham. It's Leon Bailey and Ollie Watkins.
Well, that is then the Aston Villa and Southampton team news then, and we are 1 minute away from the 4 o'clock kickoffs. But before that, we've got a little bit more team news to give you. It is Bournemouth v Nottingham Forest, with Matt Smith going back down all the way across the south coast of their rivals Bournemouth. I mean, they've completely turned them around, haven't they, Steve Cooper on the Nottingham Forest? It was a bit of a rocky start, but they show confidence in Cooper, and now they are 13th in the table. Bournemouth, though, they've not been the same. They have been poor, really, really poor. But let's hear what Steve Cooper had to say ahead of this clash.
Yeah, so he's going to be out for 4 to 5 weeks, which is obviously a bit of a blow for all of us, but him especially. But these things happen, and we carry on with our work and support Dean as best we can to get fit. as quick as possible. In the meantime, we have to concentrate on getting ready for games. Ryan Yates will be available. He obviously came off at half time with a bit of a knock to his face, but he's all right, so he'll be available. And apart from that, we were as we were before the last game. So not the greatest injury record at the moment, but we'll see.
Yeah, that was Steve Cooper speaking there about the injuries that the Nottingham Forest are sort of saying. But Matt, then what are the team news looking like for Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest as Nottingham Forest head to the Vitality today?
Well, hello Josh. Bournemouth are without first choice forward Dominic Solanke again as he struggles to overcome a knee injury which ruled him out of the defeat at Brentford. Therefore, Wales striker Kiefer Moore does start again. New signing Dango Outara at 20 years old has scored 6 goals in 18 Ligue 1 appearances this season, and he starts at the Vitality today alongside Moore. The full team for Bournemouth is as follows. You've got Neto in goal, a back four of Adam Smith, Jack Stevens, Lloyd Kelly wears the captain's armband today, Jordan Zamora at left back. There's a midfield four of Joe Rothwell and Jefferson Lerma in the centre of midfield. You've got Jayden Anthony on the left and Django Outara out on the right. Ryan Christie just behind Kiefer Moore. Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, 3 points against Leicester. Last time out came at a cost. Manchester United loanee Dean Henderson is consigned to the treatment table until March after suffering a thigh tear last week. So the vastly experienced Wayne Hennessy is therefore the man between the sticks for Forest. The back four is Serge Aurier, Joe Worrell, Willy Bolly and Renan Lodi. 3 central midfielders of Aurel Mangala, Ryan Yates, Remo Freuler and Brennan Johnson, Morgan Gibbs-White. Behind, brand new signing from Newcastle United, Chris Wood.
They're the team news then for Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. And the games are now underway in the Premier League and in the Bundesliga. Well, we've already played for nearly 45 minutes, half an hour coming to the close. In that game, it's Billy Andrews with Union Berlin v Hoffenheim. Billy, how's that game gone so far? There was a save penalty, wasn't there, for Union?
Yeah, there was indeed. They got a penalty after Elash Bibu sort of flapped the ball away. It was like he was playing beach volleyball in his own penalty area. Jordan Sibachu, the American striker, stepped up to take it. He stuttered his run and it was a poor, weak penalty down to the goalkeeper's left, and Oliver Baumann pushed it away. The other end, we had a free kick, well taken by Oliver Skov, but well saved by Frederick Ronov in the goal for Union Berlin. So the teams, it's Frederick Renov in goal, Paul Yekel, Robin Knocker and Danilo Doki in a back three with Christopher Trimmel and Nico Gieselman as the wing-backs. Genki Haraguchi, Rani Kadira and Yannick Harberder in a midfield three behind that dynamic duo up front, Geraldo Becker and Jordan Sibachu. In goal for Hoffenheim is Oliver Baumann, Kevin Akpoguma, Ozan Kabak and Stanley Nsoki in a back three, Robert Skov and Angelino in the wing-back position with Dennis Geiger and Angelino Stiller in a midfield two. 17-year-old Thomas Bischoff making his first start for Hoffenheim, born in 2005, Josh, if you want to feel really old. In behind Elash Bibu and Christoph Baumgartner. Of course, they've lost Jorginho Rutter to Leeds. Let's see if they've got the firepower to make up for it, but 32 minutes gone. We've had a decent free kick and a saved penalty. Football's definitely back at the Stadion and Alton Force tonight. It's still 0-0 though.
And Billy, before we go back onto the other Premier League games, we just want to quickly ask about Union Berlin, because they were so brilliant in the early season. They shocked so many people. However, maybe the form has slipped away slightly. But how do you see Union Berlin's season playing out and kind of how they're playing right now?
They're a weird one, Union Berlin, Josh, because since they got promoted, they've improved every single year. They were 11th in their first season, 7th in the second, and 5th last season. So they've got better slowly each year, and it's a credit to Urs Fischer. And if results go their way, this weekend they could potentially end up in the Champions League places, which I think gave any Union fan that at the start of the season, they'd have bitten your hand off. So it's interesting. They've lost Julian Ryerson to Borussia Dortmund, but there is talk of them bringing in Josip Juranovic from Celtic, and we all know how good he is at right back. But can they keep it up all season? I think they're showing that they can.
Well, thank you, Billy. There, our resident Bundesliga expert, going to be guiding us through Union Berlin v Hoffenheim. But if you're wondering and thinking, Josh, how do I follow Football Live on socials? Well, have a listen to this.
Get involved with today's action. Have your say on social media. We want to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your predictions, and you can do so on Twitter at BrillaFM889. That's at BrillaFM889. And we're also on Facebook at 889 Brilla FM. That's at 889 Brilla FM. Interact and be part of the show this afternoon here on Brilla FM and Football Live.
It's football, my friend. It's football.
Now Southampton, who have got the worst record in the Premier League this division, well, they're trying to kind of make a meal of it and they're trying to go forward. But Aston Villa, they've had a chance, haven't they, Warren?
Yes, they have. It's been a very positive start to this game from Aston Villa. Unai Emery will be very impressed. Pinning Southampton back, not allowing them any time on the ball. And it was good work on the left-hand side from Alex Moreno, their new signing, who makes his first full start today in Villa colours. He whips in a great ball in from the left-hand side with the left foot. It's towards Ollie Watkins, but his header goes harmlessly wide. Villa dictating possession and creating more chances. So a positive start for the away side. But after 4.5 minutes, it remains Southampton 0, Aston Villa 0.
Now, we may be covering then Premier League games here on Football Live, but obviously we take an interest across football all across the globe, and that's not without saying some of the biggest news that has come in recently with Plusvalency Gate, and that is the fact that Juventus, they have been deducted 15 points, and we're now going to bring in our Serie A expert, Matteo, to tell us all about this. Welcome, Matteo. I mean, look, I'll just explain a little bit about this ban for our listeners then. It's a 15-point deduction for Juventus. It's a 2.5-year inhibition for Fabio Paratici, who is the sporting director at Tottenham. It's also 2 years ban for Angeli and Riva Bene. It's 8 months for Nedved, and also it's 1.4-year ban for Cherubini. So that's kind of the details of the ban. But why has this ban, which is so serious for Juventus, come about, Matteo?
Well, hello, Josh. And I think it's been kind of a situation that's been building up for years. There have been many tricky transfers, and I'm going to list a few of them. The Arthur deal, which brought Arthur from Barcelona to Juventus for 72 million euros plus 10 million for bonuses. And on the other way, Pjanic left Juventus for 63 million, a convenient amount which allowed Juventus to gain 44 millions of plusvalenza, which are capital gains in English, and thus to manage to not fall into illegal activities regarding the financial fair play. Odero, Sampdoria's goalkeeper, was actually a Juventus player, and he was sold for 20 million, allowing Juventus to gain 19 million as plusvalenza. Another tricky deal was the Danilo Cancelo swap. Danilo went to Juventus for 37 million from Man City, and Man City bought Cancelo for 65 million, allowing Juventus to earn 30 million from that transfer alone. There have been another number of teams investigated in Serie A, for example, Milan, Lazio, Inter, Napoli with the Osimhen deal, but none of them have actually been deducted any points. Now, Juventus' situation is actually not ended. They might be even in bigger trouble, because the false accounting scandal is yet to be investigated, because there have been investigations regarding deals, for example, 20 million euros paid for Ronaldo without accounting them. So there have been claims of false accounting for Juventus, and that might result in further sanctions. Some people even said relegation risks for Juventus, but that is still to be decided. The feelings in Italy are mixed. Some people feel like Juventus have been the scapegoats of the situation, since they are the symbol of Italian football, we can say, the biggest team in the last few years of Italian football. Some people feel like Juventus have been deducted those points to be taken as scapegoats, and to send a signal to the other teams to stop the plusvalenza operations, which have been actually pursued by many teams, not only in Italy but also in other countries. For example, I mentioned Man City or Barcelona. Other people think that Juventus have gone too far, and that the deduction is actually right, and Juventus have to stop their activities and their business. Now, Agnelli is someone in Italy is pretty much hated by anyone who's not a Juventus fan, and therefore the public opinion is really taken with a pinch of salt. But the feeling is, in general, that Juventus have been punished because they actually did go too far and they tried to trick the international and the Italian Federation, whereas the other teams were just managing money. Even though that's just a public feeling, it's not the official reasons which haven't been given out yet. That's just how Italian people are discussing the topic. Allegri, Juventus's manager, one of the few people who's actually involved in the scandal, as he was the manager. He didn't actually take part in the operation, but he was the manager at the time, and is still at the club. He said that Juventus must now focus only on the pitch. They have to win the Europa League. They got the Coppa Italia to focus on, and they still got 60 points, and they have to earn them all to have a chance to play in Champions League next year. That might be a crucial point because if Juventus don't get in Champions League, they'll be in heavy financial troubles. They have to pay huge sums for salaries. They are the team which pays the most in salaries in Serie A. And if they don't get that Champions League money, we might see Juventus selling their biggest stars for a low price, as they will need to thin their expenses for salaries. Danilo, Juventus's actual captain, and one of the players was involved with his transfers, of course, indirectly in the scandal. It's launched a message of hope and unity for Juventus. Even Chiellini spoke about the situation from Los Angeles, and the Juventus fan base seems to be very united in this struggle. They're playing Atalanta this week, and then it's going to be a crucial gateway to understand how the team has reacted to the point deduction. Now, will the deduction stay or can Juventus appeal? That is a tricky situation because technically Juventus can still appeal to the CONI tribunal. CONI is the Italian Olympic Committee, which handles a number of sports organizations, including the VIGC, which is the Italian Football Federation. But still, it's not going to be an appeal which is going to focus on the decision. It's only going to focus on the trial itself, whether it was portrayed correctly or have there been some kind of faults by the judges. So it is unlikely that Juventus will see their point deduction completely erased, but they might actually have some reduction in these points. In this point scandal, so the 15 points might not be definitive decision. However, it is still quite unlikely for Juventus to see any of these points back on their board. Juventus fans woke up today and found themselves in 10th with 25 points away from Napoli at the top, whereas they were third before this scandal erupted. Fabio Paratici was involved in the scandal as he was the director of football in Juventus. So this might...
So I'm going to have to interrupt you slightly. I'm listening on what you're saying, but there has been a goal in the Premier League, and it's come at Bournemouth, and it has come for Nottingham Forest. It's unclear who the goal scorer is right now, but all you need to know is that Forest are 1-0 up in this game. That is our first goal in the Premier League this afternoon. Matteo, please continue with what you were saying.
Yeah, I was just saying that if UEFA decide to extend their ban, Tottenham might be forced to sack Fabio Paratici, as he's been disqualified from Italian football for 2.5 years. If UEFA decide to extend the ban, he won't be able to pursue any kind of transfer for 2.5 years. So let's see, because Tottenham might be forced to reshape their board.
Yeah, it's dangerous times for Juventus. It's dangerous times for Tottenham. This expands across the globe, and this is really, really impactful. Thank you so much, Teo, for coming in and talking to us. But there's also been another going on in the Premier League this time, but instead in the Bundesliga. It's Hoffenheim that time, and we also did talk about the goal between Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, but I think the Nottingham Forest goal has been ruled out for offside. We will double confirm that when we go back to our reporter in that game, who was obviously Matt Smith, but I think the Nottingham Forest goal is offside. So right now we're back to all square across all the games in the Premier League. We're going to go to Billy now, Billy Andrews, who is our Bundesliga correspondent, to get more information about that goal at Hoffenheim.
And it's counter-attacking football at its absolute finest from Hoffenheim. A fantastic counter. The ball played into Robert Skov by the 17-year-old Thomas Bischoff, whose first time pass to Elash Bibu on his first Bundesliga start of the season for Hoffenheim. First time shot, goal at the near post. A fantastic goal for Hoffenheim, and Bibu making up for giving away the penalty at the other end. It's 44 minutes gone, and it's 1-0 to Hoffenheim.
Yes, Hoffenheim leading in that game. Of course, that now means Hoffenheim, they've been in really bad form so far in the Bundesliga so far. Hoffenheim, they're back to 11th and haven't won a league match since defeating lonely place Schalke on October 14th. We told you that Nottingham Forest had scored. It was Ryan Rates who got that initial goal. However, it has been ruled offside. Matt, what can you tell us about that?
Well, it's come from a free kick from Morgan Gibbs-White, maybe just in the final third for Forest, and he's lofted it over the top of the Bournemouth defence, and it's the big towering Willy Bolly who's headed the ball back across into the centre of the box, and Ryan Yates is there to clear up. It was looking to be 1-0, but on closer inspection, Willy Bolly I think might have been a couple of feet offside as he headed it back towards the centre of the park, but it's still Bournemouth 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
Matt, how has the rest of that game gone? Because obviously it's 15 minutes, and apart from the goal, how's the opening 15 minutes gone?
A little bit cagey from both. I think there's a few fouls going in left and right. Everyone's looking a little bit frantic. Neither team are really able to get the ball, the ball moving, the ball down and playing. Both teams are sort of they're very, very aware that how big a game this is for both. So it's a little bit cagey, I would say. Bournemouth are having good spells. But like I say, it's just trading light blows with one another at the moment. Morgan Gibbs-White really shining as he always does. But yes, as I say, 14 minutes, Bournemouth 0, Nottingham Forest 0, and it looks like it could stay that way. Only apart from that odd little chance here and there, it's a bit of a stalemate at the moment.
So our first bit of drama in the Premier League coming courtesy of the Vitality Stadium and Nottingham Forest. There was also a chance while Matteo was speaking for Aston Villa at St Mary's. Aston Villa, they're really ramping up the heat on Southampton, aren't they?
Yes, they definitely are, Josh. Villa are starting to probe and ask questions of the Southampton defence, and there was a huge penalty appeal from the Aston Villa players towards the referee Michael Salisbury. There's a good ball in from the left-hand side from Emi Buendia. Jacob Ramsey, he touched it down and flicks it. He overhits the flick, but has enough room to run into the penalty area. He gets his foot on the ball, and the Southampton goalkeeper, Gavin Bazunu, comes in and takes him out. On the replay, I did think that Bazunu had got none of the ball. I thought Ramsey had nipped in and should have been awarded a penalty, but VAR deemed to have ruled it out. So quite another controversial decision to be made by VAR. Since then, it's been a bit scrappy, a lot of niggly fouls, but Villa have had 75% of the ball, which really tells the story of the game so far. But we're just coming up to 16 minutes gone, and it's still Southampton 0, Aston Villa 0.
Off to the London Stadium next, where West Ham could go 8 league games without a win for the first time ever under David Moyes. As it's Isaac Dykes there. Isaac, how's the opening 20 minutes gone?
Yeah, I think both sides are acutely aware of how important the first goal is here at the London Stadium. They've been a real struggle for both these teams. I mean, neither have a Premier League win since late October, and you can tell from the way they're being played, just a lack of quality in that final third. Both teams progressing the ball nicely, but nothing really cutting edge as of both sides failing to have any shots on target or at the goal, I think, either. So a bit of a stalemate, but just a little bit of quality to bring this game to life, I think. After 15 minutes, still 0-0.
0-0 in that game, and it's also 0-0 at Leicester and Brighton. How was the opening 20 minutes gone there?
Yes, that's right, Josh. Still 0-0 at the King Power Stadium between Leicester and Brighton. Bit like it seems at West Ham Everton, it's been a cagey start. Both teams trying to get on the ball, play some good football, but that hasn't materialised into any major chances yet. Must say the King Power Stadium, when Leicester are playing well, it's normally bouncing and full of atmosphere. It's quiet at the minute. It must say that the home fans are nervy. They know that it's a big game for their side, and a game that at the minute Brighton have got control of. Leicester trying to offer something on the counter-attack, but as I say, not really a clear chance for either team yet. It's still 0-0 between Leicester and Brighton.
We also like to keep you updated across the scores around all of Europe, and we'll go to the Championship first. Earn that early kickoff there. Norwich beat Coventry 4-2. Right now, though, Preston are beating Birmingham 2-0. It's 0-0 in the games between Bristol City and Blackburn, Cardiff and Millwall, and Watford and Rotherham. However, we do have goals in Stoke with Reading, which is 1-0. Wigan are currently losing to Luton at home, as well as Cooper and Swansea. That is 0-0. As well as for the other games then in Bundesliga, where we're coming up to half-time in a few of those games. Bochum, they're leading 2-0 at Hertha. Frankfurt are beating Schalke 1-0. It's also Stuttgart and Mainz, which are 1-0. Union Berlin, as Billy Andrews reported, are losing to Hoffenheim 1-0. And coming into half-time at the moment is Wolfsburg and Freiburg, and they are 3-0 up in that game. In the Serie A, it's Verona who are beating Lecce 2-0. That's the 62nd minute in that game. Real Sociedad, who are high-flying in La Liga, third in the league, they beat Rayo Vallecano 2-0 in the earlier kickoff. And Espanyol are currently 0-0 with Real Betis. We also like to keep you up to date on some Nigerian players as well. We've also got Troost Akong, who's playing in the Championship of Watford, 0-0 in that game. And also Okoye as well, who also plays for Watford. It is 0-0 against Rotherham. We also got Nwankwo, who plays for Benetivo. They drew 1-0 in the Serie B game against Genoa, and also Agpoguma as well for Hoffenheim. That game is 1-0 currently in that game. But we're going to go back to the Premier League for a second, and we're going to go to Everton. We're going to go to London Stadium because there's been an Everton chance and also a VAR check as well.
Yeah, the first real chance of the game here, Josh, at London Stadium after 16 minutes. It comes from the second phase of a corner, gets headed away by the West Ham defence, and Alex Iwobi puts a delightful little ball back in. And Angelo Ogbonna sort of slips or trips over one of his own men, gets caught in a really unnatural position. The ball definitely strikes his arm. Yerry Mina, the ball drops to after that, who skies the ball over the bar. It's a really clear-cut chance. He should have at least got something on target from there, just around the penalty spot. But Stuart Atwell went to the VAR room, nothing given as of yet. So just a little bit of quality missing still. After 17 minutes, West Ham 0, Everton 0.
And Isaac, just a quick, do you think it was a handball? Do you think it should have been given in that game?
I think it should have been a handball, yes. Angelo Ogbonna just makes a right meal of it. He gets himself in an unnatural position, the arm's miles away from his body as it's falling, and as the ball dropped to Yerry Mina, he's right behind him anyway, so I think it would have been an even more clear-cut chance. So, in my opinion, I think they should have had a penalty. They've got a great case, Everton. Still 0-0, unfortunately for them.
Well, in St Mary's then, we said the home form isn't great. And Aston Villa, they are ramping up the pressure for Southampton. They've had another chance.
Yes, they have. Villa seem to be pinned in the Southampton penalty area here. It's absolutely ridiculous. They just can't get out Nathan Jones' side. And it was very intricate play for Villa. You can really tell the confidence that they're playing with under Unai Emery and the freedom that they've got. It's brilliant play from left to right. As he finds to Jacob Ramsey, gets the ball out wide to Leon Bailey, who puts a delightful crossover. It looked destined to be tapped in by Ollie Watkins, but the Southampton goalkeeper Gavin Bazunu did very well to punch clear away from danger. Villa still having the ball here, very dominant, but still goalless after 21 minutes.
Warren, on Southampton quickly, obviously they're trying to avoid losing 3 Premier League matches in a row against Aston Villa for the first time since 1998. And 1999. They've sort of turned things around in the league. Do you think that that is a hollow form? Do you think the form isn't really reflected on the actual team they are? Or do you think Nathan Jones is starting to turn things around for the Saints?
I think when you look at the results, I think Nathan Jones is starting to get the best out of a few players. I think James Ward-Prowse is a very good example. Coming in, making a real difference, particularly in that win over Everton last weekend, scoring 2 goals. That was absolutely huge for them. And he's going to be a very important player, but we know what Nathan Jones does. He comes in and improves players. He did that very well at Luton in his time there, and it seems to be transpiring at Southampton. And they just need him to get a bit more in the game here because we know how key he is to it.
Yes, thank you, Warren. That is 0-0 currently in that game, and all the other games in the Premier League are 0-0. Don't forget, though, about 15 minutes ago, Nottingham Forest did have the ball in the back of the net. However, that ended up being ruled out. Ryan Yates' goal ruled out for offside against Nottingham Forest, and it stayed 0-0. As mentioned, we are covering Union Berlin v Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim lead 1-0 in that game, and it is half-time. Here is Billy Andrews with the report.
Yeah, the game started lively at the Ander Alten Forsterlein. Union had an opportunity gifted to them by Ilash Bibu after he palmed the ball away inside his own box, but Jordan Sibachu had a weak penalty saved by Oliver Baumann. He wasn't very happy with the referee that it was given. They still didn't think it should have been a penalty. And then down the other end, it was a counter-attacking goal in its purest form. The ball from Oliver Skov into Ilash Bibu. First time shot into the near post, giving Hoffenheim a 1-0 lead. And a bit of breaking news as well elsewhere in the Bundesliga. Youssoufa Moukoko, the highly rated 18-year-old for Borussia Dortmund, has signed a contract extension until 2026. So it's 1-0 to Hoffenheim at half-time, but can Union find the form that everyone was so shocked that they had at the first half of the season? Second half coming up next.
Well, we have a first goal in the Premier League, and that came at Southampton against Aston Villa. However, I think in that game that also may have been ruled out for offside because it looks like the goal has been chalked off. So we've had 2 goals in the back of the net in the Premier League, but both have not counted. So if I'm correct, that game is still 0-0. We're going to go over to Matthew Key and to Leicester because Brighton have had an absolutely huge chance.
Yeah, that's correct, Isaac. I have no idea, Josh, I have no idea how they haven't scored there. Leicester, we know they're notoriously bad at set pieces. It's almost been their undoing once again. Solly March has whipped an absolutely delightful ball into the box. In swinging corner. And Jean-Paul Van Heck, the player making his first start of the season, has a massive chance at the back post. Can't convert, just puts it over from just yards out. And Danny Ward in the Leicester goal was complaining that he was being impeded. Didn't look like anything to me, just looked like he missed the ball. But yeah, Van Heck puts it over, can't convert, massive chance for Brighton, and Leicester, they'll be looking to capitalise on those Leicester defending from those set pieces. But somehow it's still 0-0 between Leicester and Brighton at the King Power Stadium.
Huge chances for Brighton, goals disallowed for Nottingham Forest and Southampton. And before we go back, I think there has been a goal. We just left Matthew Key there, but I think there's been a goal for Brighton to go 1-0 up at Leicester. When we hear from Matthew, when he's seen that goal, we will get it to you straight away. But right now, we are going to go to Warren Bishop, who is covering Southampton v Aston Villa. Tell us a bit more about that Southampton disallowed goal.
Yes, and against all the odds, it was Southampton that found the back of the net ahead of Aston Villa after a dominant start from Unai Emery's men. But it has been ruled out for offside. It came on the right-hand side from Lianco. It was a brilliant first-time ball into the box. Che Adams connected with it. It was a very scuffed effort. It was bobbling, and Carl Walker-Peters managed to get it over the line. But on VAR check, both Carl Walker-Peters and Che Adams had strayed into offside positions. We thought Walker-Peters would have costed Southampton getting a goal there, but both of them were offside. But that's just a warning sign for Aston Villa, who might be becoming complacent after a dominant start. But it is still goalless between Southampton and Aston Villa.
Goalless there, but it isn't goalless between Leicester and Brighton. As mentioned before, we spoke to Warren Bishop. Brighton found the goal in that game. It was Matoma who got that goal. And as said, we will get you the report of how that goal came about as soon as it comes in. Before that, though, we're going to go to Matt Smith because there was a big chance for Forest.
Yeah, it's that man again. It's Morgan Gibbs-White. Bournemouth have actually probably, I would say, marginally been on the front foot. They're starting to, push the pressure on the back four for Forest. But it's Morgan Gibbs-White. The ball fell to him. He's got a bit lucky with it. He's had an attempt from around 25, 30 yards out. It looked like a bit of a nothing chance to start with. I think Neto scrambled across his goal just to stop it going into his net, and I think he maybe got a little hand to it and it's gone out for a corner. But Morgan Gibbs-White is the player that's pulling the strings for Forest. I think he does that every weekend. A little special mention, I think, to Dango Ouattara for Bournemouth. Seems to be the leading man at the moment for Bournemouth in this first 26 minutes. He's only a young boy, but he's doing very, very well in this first 26 minutes. It is still Bournemouth 0, Forest 0 though.
And just as we're leaving Matthew Key there, Bournemouth have taken the lead in that game. It's Anthony with the shot, and it's Anthony with the goal. Again, when the report comes in, we will get you to straight away. But Matthew Key, what can you tell us about the Brighton goal that has put them 1-0 up at the King Power?
I can tell you, Josh, that is an absolute screamer from Kaoru Mitoma, one of Brighton's most dangerous players all season. That's his 4th goal of the season, and he won't have scored one better than this. Brighton's biggest threat has been from that left-hand side. Estupiñán and Mitoma combining really well and looking dangerous, and it is the first one that finds the latter. Estupiñán finds Mitoma, outside the box. He takes on Timothy Castagna. He cuts in on his right foot, and outside the box, he unleashes an absolute wonder goal into the top corner. Danny Ward had absolutely no chance. The Brighton fans in the away end go mental. It's another goal for their side, and it could be on the way to another 3 points for them as well. It's 1-0 to Brighton against Leicester. Big pressure now on Leicester City to get something from this game. They're losing at home, 1-0 to Brighton and Hove Albion.
Matthew, what have you made of Matoma? Because he was such a cheap bargain from the Japanese league, the J League, £3 million. He's completely set alight the Premier League. What have you made of him and his introduction since Brighton bought him?
Well, it's just what you expect from Brighton nowadays. We mentioned earlier about Trossard leaving this season, and you'd think that'd be a big loss for them, but when their recruitment is this good and they find players like Matoma, who are unknowns really, diamonds in the rough, and he comes in and he just looks absolutely electric. Every time he gets the ball, he looks like he's going to take on his man, beat him, put in a dangerous cross, have a shot or whatever, and it's exactly what he's done again. That's his 4th goal of the season, alongside 3 assists, and we've got to remember that he's only just really established himself in the team for Brighton, so it's an amazing return for him so far, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was another one that Brighton were able to get big money for in the summer or beyond.
So that's Brighton in the lead. Bournemouth also took the lead against Nottingham Forest, and we have now got the goal report. Matt Smith, tell us about the goal.
Well, I said it's been coming, and it started from a fantastic bit of dribbling down the right wing from Dango Autara. Again, that man. The cross has come in from the right, and Jayden Anthony is waiting. He's collected the pass from the edge of the box, and he's slotted past Wayne Hennessy. Jayden Anthony scores the goal, but it's a great setup from Dango Autara. It's Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
So we may have 2 0-0 games in the Premier League so far. That's Southampton 0, Aston Villa 0, and West Ham 0, Everton 0. I feel a bit sorry for Isaac Dilks because he's the only one that hasn't seen a goal in the back of the net. Obviously, the Southampton game was ruled out for offside, but there's been a chance for West Ham.
Yeah, massive chance for West Ham. It's Said Benrahma, who just drops 2 on the edge of the box after a period of pinball in the middle of the park. Idrissa Gana Gueye and Lucas Paqueta just kicking it against each other. It really luckily just drops for him. He gets a little bit of time and space. The lovely curling effort, and it forces Lucas Fabianski into a massive, massive save, who just tips it over the bar for the corner. There's quality up front for West Ham. They've just got to find it. Mikel Antonio struggled to get on the ball, and in all honesty, Lucas Paqueta and Declan Rice are getting played out the game a little bit by Everton's midfield 3. Unfortunately, at the moment, still 0-0 at West Ham versus Everton after 28 minutes.
0-0 there, and we've also had an injury at the Leicester Brighton game. It's come for Brighton, and it's Adam Lallana has had to go off. Matthew, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Josh, in the aftermath of the goal for Brighton, unfortunately for Adam Lallana, he's had to go off injured. He's been replaced by Joel Veltman. Real shame for Lallana. He's had such a great season, really sort of re-established himself as such a quality player, playing for Roberto De Zerbi and this Brighton team. But unfortunately, he's had to go off injured. Not quite sure the extent of the injury or what caused it, but something that may be a promising sign is that he has returned to the bench. So he hasn't gone straight down the tunnel for treatment, but I'll give you any update on what that injury may have been when I get it. Still 1-0 to Brighton at the King Power Stadium.
1-0 to Brighton there then. And shall we just breathe for a second, shall we? Because that was an absolutely chaotic 5-10 minutes here on Football Live. Goals everywhere, offside goals, just goals. But it's exactly what we want. It's why we come here. It's why we love the Premier League. But earlier in the Premier League then, it was Liverpool v Chelsea, a huge clash. That normally we would say a huge clash at the top of the table. However, both teams, they're in 8th and 10th respectively this season. It's been a poor season for both them. Jurgen Klopp, Graham Potter, both came head-to-head in the 12:30 kickoff at Anfield, and that game was 0-0. Kai Havertz did have the goal in the back of the net early, and his strike was ruled out for offside by VAR. It was also a lively debut as well for the new 80 million new boy, Murdick as well, while also Liverpool keeper Alisson saved well from new Chelsea signing Benoit Badashili. The two giants then, they're falling, and today was kind of a reflection of that. As for Cody Gakpo as well, Liverpool's own 45 million recruit, he did force a save from Kepa, But other than that, there was not really much attacking threat for Liverpool as their goals and their defence, kind of both ends of the pitch and in the midfield. They're really lacking this season. They're really lacking intensity, and it is really, really poor to see. A really poor result, but do let FJ know as the halftime team as we go back over to Nigeria at 52 past the bar. Obviously, I know a lot of you in Nigeria, you love Chelsea, so let us know how you were happy with the performance, in a performance which you seemed like you were the better team and maybe deserved a goal there. But as I said, it was Liverpool 0, Chelsea 0 in the early kickoff in that game. As for the rest of the games then around the ground, I said I'll keep you updated in the Bundesliga. We're still in half-time of a couple of games, but Frankfurt and Schalke has just kicked off. That's 1-0. And Wolfsburg and Freiburg has just kicked off as well. That is 3-0 in that game. As for the Championship, we've still seen more goals. Millwall have taken the lead at QPR. That is 1-0. And QPR have taken the lead at Swansea. That's 1-0 in that game. It's also Stoke 1, Reading 0. Rotherham took the lead at Watford, and also Luton and Wigan are 1-0 in that game. Luton still near 1-0, but we do have a goal at the London Stadium, and it's for West Ham. West Ham, who have been in such poor form at the London Stadium, are at the risk today of equalling their record of 4 consecutive home defeats in the Premier League and actually looking to avoid a 6th home league in the defeat this season. They only lost 5 times in each of their previous 2 campaigns, and they've equalled that in only half a season. We'll get you when we have the report for that. We will get it, and I will let you know who scored that goal when we get it. But as I said, West Ham lead 1-0 in a big relegation clash. We're going to go over to Warren Bishop now, and we're going to head over to Southampton because Villa have had another chance. How have they not scored yet?
Honestly, I do not know. It's a great link-up between Leon Bailey and Jacob Ramsey. It's inch perfect as they move it between the final third, cutting through the heart of that Southampton defence. Bailey pulls the ball back to Jacob Ramsey on the edge of the area from the right-hand side. His shot is straight at Bazunu, who parries it straight to Leon Bailey. But his rebound effort is well wide of the goal. There was another controversial VAR decision as Villa looked very threatening again. It was Jacob Ramsey who rolled Mohamed Salisu, the Southampton centre, up and went over under pressure. But the VAR check was very, very brief. But I do think Salisu did catch Ramsey and got away with one there. So that's 2 penalty decisions that Aston Villa supporters will be feeling aggrieved with right now. But as we close in on half-time, it is still Southampton 0, Aston Villa 0.
Yes, and as for the West Ham-Everton game, then it was Jarrod Bowen who got on the score sheet there. He was absolutely brilliant last year, a revelation to the Premier League. He hasn't hit those same heights this year. However, he has scored there and he's put West Ham 1-0 up. There was VAR in that game. However, the goal does stand. We also have another goal in the Premier League. They're flying in everywhere, and it's at Leicester and Brighton as Leicester have equalised. Yes, 1-1 in that game. We will get to you straight away. We'll get to Matthew Key straight away when he has seen that goal. But we're going to go to Isaac then at the London Stadium. West Ham have taken the lead. Jarrod Bowen scored. Tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, we said how important the first goal would be in this game, Josh, and I think it will prove to be. Hopefully it will liven this game up. It comes from the second phase of a corner once again, as many of the chances have, and it's just Kurt Zouma who gets a little flick on just on the penalty spot. Drops to Jarrod Bowen on the back post, who just posts a little left foot of it, squeezes it past Fabianski, just to his right-hand side. Not a classy goal, not a brilliant finish, but one that West Ham really, really needed here for their state of the season. 1-0 here after 35 minutes at the London Stadium to West Ham.
Huge goal for them, West Ham. As I said, it's a relegation battle between West Ham and Everton, and whoever wins that game, well, the other manager, the opposing manager who loses it, will probably be facing the sack. David Moyes knows he needs to win that game, and he has done so. In the Leicester game then, we obviously had a goal, and it was Mark Albrighton who scored that. However, VAR are checking it, so we're gonna see how that plans out. Matthew Key, though, could you explain a little bit about that goal?
Yes, I can, Josh, and it looks like for the time being Leicester have evened it up, and it's Mark Albrighton who had barely come off the bench, actually. He came on for Dennis Pratt, who went down with an ankle injury. Albrighton came on and he's made an instant impact, scoring the equaliser for the time being. It was a sweeping counter-attack from Leicester, the best bit of football they've played in the game. Dewsbury Hall sweeping it out to Harvey Barnes on the left-hand side. it might be the offside there that they'll be looking at for the VAR. Barnes shot, appeal for handball, fell to Vardy, appeal for handball again, and eventually it was Albrighton who tapped it in. But it'll be interesting to see if this is allowed or not, because maybe an offside, and if there is, could potentially be a penalty depending on where it is. So I'll keep an eye on it, keep you updated. But for now, at least, it is Leicester 1, Brighton Hove Albion 1 at the King Power Stadium.
And just as we leave Matthew there, we can confirm that that Leicester goal is allowed. So they are levelling that game courtesy of Mark Albright. And don't forget as well, Leicester, they only have 1 point from 10 league matches against teams currently in the top half of the stadium. And, you know, Brighton, that actually came home to Brentford on the opening weekend, but since then they haven't. Remember as well, we're always active on social media, and if you want to follow us on there, this is how you can do it.
Get involved with today's action. Have your say on social media. We want to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your predictions, and you can do so on Twitter at BrillaFM889. That's at BrillaFM889. And we're also on Facebook at 889 Brilla FM. That's at 889 Brilla FM. Interact and be part of the show this afternoon here on Brilla FM and Football Live.
It's football, my friend. It's football.
A flurry of more goals in the last 15 minutes. So shall we have a little bit of a roundup in the Premier League, just so you're all caught up and understand what the current situation is. It's Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 0. It's Leicester 1, Brighton 1. It's Southampton 0, Aston Villa 0, the only game without a goal in the Premier League. And also West Ham 1, Everton 0. In the Bundesliga as well, which is our other featured game, it is currently 1-0 Hoffenheim. However, Union Berlin, they're not lying down and they have just had a chance.
Yeah, they've come out of the blocks flying the second half, have Union Berlin, and the chance fell to Gieselman. The ball was flashed all the way across by Jordan. It came to Geraldo Becker, who pulled it back, and his shot was just tackled away out for a corner. They had a flurry of 3 or 4 corners in a row, but the delivery from Christopher Trimmel hasn't been good enough really this second half. But they're on top in the first 5 minutes of the second half. It's still 1-0 to Hoffenheim though.
Yes, and West Ham have already got 1 goal so far in their game. They're looking to double their advantage, and they just came close again.
Yeah, I was hoping this game would open up after that first goal, and it looks like it might. West Ham have another brilliant chance, a free header for Antonio at the back post. Would have been difficult for him to score, but you're just hoping that someone like Ben Rama or Jared Bowen can get across the 6-yard box and get a rebound, something like that. Just that little bit of instinct that they're just missing at the moment, West Ham. Antonio puts it into a great area, and it slides off Yerry Mina for another corner for West Ham. Really in the ascendancy here, West Ham. They'll be hoping to double their lead as soon as possible. Still 1-0 to West Ham at the London Stadium against Everton after 38 minutes.
It's all happening on Football Live again today. And as I say that, as we have just left Isaac Dilks, West Ham have doubled their advantage and they are now 2-0 up against Everton. When we know who scored and we know how that goal has gone, we will get to Isaac straight away. I mean, it's all happening on Football Live today. And there's so many incidents. And at St Mary's, all the players have currently gone off the pitch due to a drone on the pitch. Warren, that's a bit bizarre, isn't it? What's happened there?
I don't really know. Villa had just won a free kick, actually, and it was in quite a promising position, but the referee very suddenly asked all the players to make their way off the pitch because of a drone flying over the stadium. It's absolutely crazy what's going on right here, very shortly before half-time as well, so a bit of a break. It's all happening in the Premier League, and this just adds to the drama. Crazy.
Warren, we haven't heard from you for a while in maybe the last 10 minutes. How's that game played out before the players leaving the pitch?
Well, like for the majority of the game, Aston Villa have dominated the ball. They've had chances. They've obviously talked about Danny Ings going out. They obviously need a striker to come in. Leon Bailey and Ollie Watkins, they've been dangerous. They've been linking up. They just haven't been their clinical selves. Of course, as we talk about the dominance, Southampton with the side to put the ball in the net for offside, so they've got to be wary of that. But throughout the first half, Villa have been probing, but just haven't had enough quality to get in front at the moment.
So there's 0-0 in that game. Bournemouth are currently leading 1-0 at Nottingham Forest. We're going to go over to our reporter there. But before we do, just want to inform you of the West Ham scorer. It's a double for West Ham. It's a double for Jared Bowen. He's been short of goals, I mentioned earlier this year. Between him and Mikel Antonio, they've been collectively involved in only 5 league goals this year, in contrast to 22 at this stage a year ago. We'll make it 7 now because Bowen is on the score sheet yet again. We'll be at that game shortly to find out a little bit more about that goal. But we're going to go over to Matt Smith next between Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Haven't heard from Matt in a while. Bournemouth are leading in that one. Are Nottingham Forest looking to do anything about it?
Yeah, both sides have had some half chances. Forest have got a real aerial threat with the likes of Willy Bolly and Joe Worrell from Morgan Gibbs White free kicks. That's where I think they're going to try and suss out Bournemouth from the long balls, the long over the top, and when they get their set pieces. Bournemouth are very dangerous, it seems, down the wings, with Jordan Zamora bombing down the left side and overlapping the winger in front of him. It's since the goal, I think Forest have maybe mounted up on their attack and pushed it a little bit faster and a little bit harder. They're really probing Neto and the back four for Bournemouth. But it's still Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 0 after 42 minutes.
We can now bring you information about that goal at the London Stadium. Isaac Dilks, take the floor.
It's calamitous defending. Frank Lampard will have his head in his hands looking at his Everton defence here. It's a great goal by Bowen. It comes from a Everton attack, really. They're camped in the West Ham's half for a couple of minutes, and then Jared Bowen escapes away on the right-hand side, feeds a brilliant ball into Mikel Antonio, who breezes past James Tarkowski far too easily. He puts in a brilliant ball, takes a little deflection, and who's there to put it home with his left foot again? It's Jared Bowen with a brace. David Moyes will be really, really happy with the way West Ham are defending here and then breaking forward nice and quickly. So after 42 minutes, it's now 2-0 at the London Stadium to West Ham.
Now at the King Power, there seems to be injuries galore, for either teams, and there's been another injury for Brighton. McAllister, the World Cup winner. Is that anything serious, Matthew?
No, it doesn't look like it will be, Josh. Yeah, you've mentioned there have been a few injuries, and there has. We've already had 2 changes enforced, and now McAllister gone down receiving treatment. He's been sort of brushed aside on the face by Dewsbury Hall. The Brighton players weren't happy about it. They felt like it was an elbow or something. It certainly wasn't that. But McAllister down. Looked like there's a bit of blood on his lips that he's just getting treated to now. But yeah, I have to say, Thomas Bramall the referee's not really had control of this game. There's been lots of fouls going in. Crowd aren't happy, the players aren't happy, and he's yet to produce a yellow card in this game, despite sort of protests from both teams after certain fouls. So yeah, turned into a bit of a niggly one, this. But as I say, no cards for now. It'll be interesting to see when that first card does happen, if it's sort of a free-fall and domino effect on that. But at the minute, McAllister's just come back on. We're entering 4 minutes of added time at the end of the first half, but it's still Leicester 1, Brighton Hove Albion 1 at the King Power.
Yes, 1-1 there then, as brilliantly reported there by our reporter. I mean, what can you say about the Premier League? It gets better every single week. I mean, for Everton, they're now 2-0 down at West Ham. Could this be Frank Lampard's last ever game as Everton manager? Who knows? But they're not lying down because they've just had a chance at the London Stadium, looking to get 1 goal back before they go into half-time.
Yeah, you can guess what I'm going to say, Josh. It's the second phase of a corner again. Ball gets put in from the right-hand side by Everton. Mikolenko picks it up at the back post, feeds a lovely little ball in. It drops to Alex Iwobi. He's got a brilliant chance. Loads of space on the edge of the 6-yard box to fire one into the bottom left corner, and he just drills it against the outside of the post. It would have left Fabianski with no chance. It would have been a brilliant way for Everton to get a goal back and sneak back into this game just before the end of the half. But unfortunately for them, it's still West Ham 2, Everton 0 after 44 minutes at the London Stadium.
Well, I mean, we're now nearly only a couple of minutes away from handing back to FJ and the team in Lagos, and we've still got loads of Premier League games that are still going. We've a lot of half times that aren't there yet. We've had 4 minutes added on at Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, 5 minutes added on between Leicester and Brighton, and 3 minutes added on between West Ham and Everton, and Southampton and Aston Villa. Well, that's going to be going on for a long while because that is still interrupted. However, we are getting some half times, so let's quickly go then to Leicester and Brighton with our reporter Matthew Key there. Tell us about the half time.
Yes, that's right. We've just reached the interval here at the King Power Stadium, and I have to say, after a slow start, this game has been excellent. Brighton took the lead due to Matoma, an absolute screamer, as I said at the time. One of the goals of the season, certainly be up there for goal of the month. And Leicester managed to get their way back into it out of nothing, really. But eventually the ball was scrambled home by Mark Albrighton after some desperate Brighton defending. And I mentioned about the yellow card. There was just one right before the end of the half, shown to Daniel Amati for a tackle on Alexis McAllister. But yeah, hopefully this second half will be more of the same. At half-time at the King Power Stadium, it is Leicester City 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 1.
There's also half-time then in London between West Ham and Everton. West Ham are leading 2-0 at that game. Here's Isaac Deitch with the half-time report.
Yeah, Josh, Everton been looking to get back into this game after half-time. They've showed glimpses of getting back into it, but West Ham have been stalwart at the back, apart from that big chance just a couple of minutes ago. David Moyes will certainly be the happy of the two managers. Like I say, his team defending really well, hitting on the break, doing exactly what they have to do now they've got this lead. But it'll be all up to Lampard and his half-time team talk to see how Everton can find a way back into this game. But it's looking pretty dire at the moment. So half-time, West Ham 2, Everton 0 at the London Stadium.
At half-time then there, and also Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, that is 1-0. That has just come to half-time. Then we'll get the half-time report from our reporter at that ground, obviously Matt Smith, who is there after we've gone to Nigeria. We'll quickly go to Billy Andrews, though, in the Bundesliga to ask about our Union Berlin just because they had another chance there before we go to FJ.
Yeah, another flurry of chances for Union, really, but the biggest one fell to the captain, Christopher Trimmel. It was a beautiful move between the front two, Jordan Shibachu and Geraldo Becker. The ball linked over Christopher Trimmel unmarked, the freedom of the box, and volleyed it straight over the bar. It's getting very physical from Hoffenheim here. Lots of free kicks being given away in dangerous positions. They've yet to be punished from them, but with half an hour to go, it's still 1-0 to the visiting side.
1-0 there. What a brilliant first half of Premier League football. Let's go to FJ and the team now.
You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM with Josh Bailey.
Yes, welcome back to Football Live. FJ, you're trying to catch me out. I know what you're trying to do there. You're trying to ask me what's the common denominator between Everton and West Ham now. I'm going to be honest with you, FJ. I have absolutely no clue. I'm going to put it out there. I'll be honest. I haven't got an absolute Scooby. I'm sorry to disappoint. If you could tell me at some point, that would be fantastic. No, I'm going to wrap my brain. I'll also ask my reporter, Isaac Dilks, as well, to see if he knows. But as for me, well, I'm the host. Am I meant to know? No, my reporters are meant to know. But thank you for trying to catch me out there anyway. But yes, hello and welcome back then to Football Live. What a brilliant first half of Premier League and Bundesliga football that was. Obviously, Bournemouth going into the break were leading 1-0 against Nottingham Forest. And we're going to hear now from our reporter, Matt Smith, tell us a bit more about that and give us our halftime report.
Well, I think Gary O'Neill will be over the moon with his team's first half. Steve Cooper, on the other hand, will not be so happy. I think Forest have maybe had more of the ball and probably more chances overall, but Bournemouth have had the bigger chances and they've taken them. As you can see, Dango Atara, the new signing, has impressed very well so far. And just before half-time, Forest had to make a change, a forced change. The inclusion of Ryan Yates was always questioned, with him only recently coming back from injury himself. But we'll get a chance to see the new signing in the second half. Danilo. It's a straight swap, as I think, at the both centre midfielders. That was in about the 43rd minute. So we'll see Danilo in full flow in the second half. But I think it's Bournemouth are probably still on top, but Nottingham Forest, as I say, are pushing.
1-0 in that game. FJ, I've given it a little bit of thought, actually. And maybe is it Frank Lampard played for West Ham and David Moyes managed Everton? That's my theory. I've given it a little bit of thought, and that's what I'm going with. We also need a halftime report then from Southampton and Aston Villa with Warren Bishop. That game was obviously delayed because of a drone on the pitch, and the play was interrupted. And we've only just got to halftime. Warren, 0-0. How did the game go?
Yes, it's been an even battle. Aston Villa have dominated most of the ball. They've had 72% possession, but they haven't managed to find that elusive first goal. Aston Villa will probably feel aggrieved by two VAR decisions that weren't given as penalties. The first one was with Jacob Ramsey, whose flick into the box. He took the ball away from the goalkeeper, Gavin Bazuni, who looked to have bundled him over, but VAR ruled it out. Southampton actually had the ball in the back of the net, but it was ruled out for offside. It was a great ball on the right from Lianco towards Che Adams, whose scuffed effort was turned in by Carl Walker-Peters, but both of them were just ahead of the Aston Villa line. Villa looking to dominate possession again and try and create more chances to score. Incredibly, we had a drone on the pitch, as you mentioned, that has delayed the game for 9 minutes with the players going down the tunnel. So it's going to be a slightly later finish than all the rest of the Premier League games. Hopefully some more quality to come. But at half-time, it is Southampton 0, Aston Villa 0.
All the Premier League games then at half-time currently, but we do have a Bundesliga feature match that is currently going on between Union Berlin and Hoffenheim. The last time we spoke to Billy, the score was 1-0 to Hoffenheim. How's the game going?
Well, it's still 1-0 to the away side, but again, a flurry of corners for Union Berlin, the latest of which is being taken now. We've had a couple of changes for Union. Paul Seguin has come on for Genki Haraguchi, and Jordan Subachu has come off to be replaced by Kevin Behrens for Union. And 17-year-old Tom Bischoff has been replaced by Andre Kramaric, and Ilash Bibu has been replaced by Kasper Dolberg, coming on to make his Hoffenheim debut, the man they hope will replace Jorginho Rutter. The crowd still in good voice as the snow continues to fall down in Berlin, but Union still on top. Hoffenheim haven't really had a sniff, but they need to make it count. They've got less than 20 minutes to go. It's still 1-0 to Hoffenheim.
It's snowing in Berlin, but the action is very hot in Germany and in the Premier League as well. We may be having frozen pitches all across the country, but the action has still not let us down. Also, where there's been a lot of action this week is in the transfer market. Obviously, we are closing to the end of this transfer saga and the transfer merry-go-round, about 9 days away from the closing at the end of January. And we just thought we'd go over some of the transfer news in case you had missed it then here on Football Live. Recently, Danny Ings who's gone from Aston Villa to West Ham. 18 months after joining Villa, he left there. It was for £12 million, and that is till 2025. Also then, Noni Madueke as well for £30.7 million. He joined Chelsea from PSV, but we're going to interrupt we're going to interrupt our coverage of the transfer news because we have a goal in Germany and Union Berlin have got an equaliser. Billy Andrews has seen it. And Billy, what can you tell us about the goal?
Well, they've pushed from corners this half, Union, and it's finally paid off. The corner came from a fantastic save from Oliver Baumann. Tipped it round the post, and from the resulting corner, Danilo Dico with his first Union Berlin goal, a looping header, didn't even move the goalkeeper. They've pushed and with just over 15 minutes to go, can they find a winner? It's Union Berlin 1, Hoffenheim 1.
1-1 in that game. A fantastic closing 15 minutes we're going to have in the Bundesliga. We will keep you updated. Don't you worry about that. All the Premier League games that are still at half-time. Don't worry, as soon as the action's there, as soon as any goals or chances, we will let you know. We're going to go back to the transfer news now, and we are going to bring in Warren Bishop just to talk about that Danny Ings move, because it's obviously a really interesting one, leaving Aston Villa to join us when both those teams respectively playing today. Warren, you're covering Aston Villa. What do you think Ings will they miss them? What do you see how Ings is going to play out?
I think at this moment in time, when you judge the first half performance from Aston Villa, they are lacking an obvious cutting edge up front. I have to say that I do think the move was best for all parties. Danny Ings didn't really get given a run of games under either Steven Gerrard or now Unai Emery. He's found himself on the bench 10 times out of the 19 games that they've played this season, but of course he was their top scorer with 7 goals, so we obviously know that he knows where the back of the net is, and that will really suit West Ham as they look to climb away from danger at this moment in time.
Do you think they'll regret it, Warren, letting him go? Because obviously you said 7 goals is a lot of goals, and for Unai Emery to come in and dislike him, do you think you'll look back on it and maybe I should have kept him?
I believe so. I think when you look at someone who's having such an impact off the bench scoring goals, what are they going to be like when they're started? Of course, he started away at Brighton earlier on in the season and grabbed 2 goals to win the game for them there. I certainly thought that he was going to push on and get more starts under Emery, but it didn't materialise. Let's not forget that back in 2019 he scored 25 goals for Southampton in all competitions, so he can do it in a season given regular game time, and I believe he'll start hitting the back of the net at West Ham, and Unai Emery will come to regret that decision.
Well, West Ham, they do need goals. They need a striker. Obviously, Antonio, the curse of the West Ham number 9 is a real thing, but maybe Danny Ings are going to do it. But they don't need it right now because they're 2-0 up courtesy of Warren. No, I was going to say of Warren Bishop. No, we've just spoke to Warren Bishop. He can't be playing. No, of Jared Bowen. All the Premier League games then, well, they have kicked off now. We've got Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest underway, Leicester and Brighton, and West Ham, Everton. We will get to our reporters shortly. As right now, we're going to cover and continue with the transfer news. Honestly, Noni Madueke, obviously 30.7 million for him. He used to be a Tottenham youngster, moving now to the blue side of London. A 7.5-year contract. That's absolutely insane. That's a mega contract. And now brings Chelsea spending this month to 156 million. Maybe he's going to find the goals. I heard some of you at half-time writing in saying that Chelsea can't score. They really cannot find the back of the net. Well, they did find the back of the net through Havertz. That goal was offside. Maybe Noni Madueke can find their back of the net and maybe change Chelsea's fortunes and make them less of a mid-table club. Leonardo Trossard as well. He joins them Brighton and Arsenal. That is for 21 million. That contract runs to 2027, and that includes an option to buy. Also, Memphis Depay. He's moved from Barcelona to Atletico Madrid. That's for 2.6 million. It was a 2.5-year deal. The contract run out in the summer, and his Barcelona contract did run out in the summer, and he only played 4 times this year. It just made a lot of sense to get Memphis Depay off the books and quickly. Danjuma as well, we briefly mentioned too. He has gone from Villarreal to Everton. Well, he's gone from to the 20 million, no option to buy on that, and the medical took place this morning. That's a loan. They need the goals. They're currently 2-0 down. Eduardo Camavinga as well. There was some rumours he was maybe going to move to either Arsenal or Chelsea. Obviously, both big clubs in Nigeria. Josh Barnett, his agent, said there's no truth in the rumours, and they're very happy at Real Madrid. Also, then the Real Madrid owner came out and said that he will not be moving. So that rumor has been squashed. Some other rumours of note then was Goncalo Guedes. He moved from Wolves to Benfica on loan. Pablo Sarabia, he's gone from PSG to Wolves for 4.4 million. And Dan Io from Palmeiras to Nottingham Forest for 60 million. I'll be sure to ask our reporter there at Nottingham Forest, who's reporting Nottingham Forest Bournemouth. That's Matt Smith about that and whether he thinks Dan Io will make an impact. But some really good news then from Football Live, because our former presenter Gianluca, he moved to Arsenal as a social media editor, and he interviewed Trossard about his move. This is what Trossard had to say to Gianluca.
Leandro, welcome to the Arsenal. How does it feel to join the club?
Yeah, great. I'm really excited to get started. Obviously, it's a big club, and I'm ready to show the fans what I can do.
It's a great time to join Arsenal at the moment. How excited are you about the prospects for the second half of the season and beyond?
Yeah, really excited. As anyone has seen how well they are doing already, and I'm here to help them to achieve their dreams as well, and including myself. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm ready to get started.
Can you tell us a bit about your conversations with Edu and Mikel Arteta? Have they said anything to you about your role in the team?
Not especially my role, but they just told me that they really like me as a player, that I could really suit the system, how they want to play. Obviously, it helps me that I'm versatile as well, that I can play in different positions. So they're looking forward to get to work with me, and vice versa for me. I'm really excited to work with them, and I think he's a top coach.
Yes, that was Gianluca, former Football Live host, speaking to Trossard there. Arsenal, who snapped up Trossard after obviously missing out on Mudik, who moved to Chelsea. They'll be happy with their man, their 30 million man from Brighton. Obviously, the Premier League games then have all kicked off.
It's a great time to join Arsenal at the moment. How excited are you about the prospects for the second half of the season?
Tell us about anyone has seen how well they're doing.
Yeah, a couple of attacking changes from Frank Lampard. Dwight McNeil comes on at left wing back in place of Mikalenko, and Tom Davies comes on at right wing back. Apologies, in place of Seamus Coleman. So attacking changes, looking to move forward, and it's Dwight McNeil's left foot that brings about the chance for Everton. It's a brilliant cross. He gets straight into the game, puts in a lovely whipped ball across the 6-yard box, and Calvert-Lewin just fluffs his lines. He can't quite get any part of his body on it, and it flies all the way through across the box out the other side. So positive signs from Everton. Attacking changes from Frank Lampard, as he looks, like we've already mentioned, to save his job most likely. But after 49 minutes, it's still West Ham 2, Everton 0.
Isaac, what do Everton need to do in this half to get back into this game? Because goals hasn't really been their forte at all. Obviously, people like Calvert-Lewin just haven't hit the heights they did a few years ago. Do you think that their days are numbered in this game?
They're just faltering in the front line, really. Damari Gray has had some bright spots, but he can't really get hold of the ball in any real space. The midfield's working well. The midfield of Idrissa Gana Gueye, Onana and Iwobi as the metronome in the middle is playing some really good football, progressing the ball nicely, but they just can't seem to keep hold of it in West Ham's half. I think there needs to be probably a change up front, maybe Anthony Gordon to come into the fray, to just give them that little bit of quality, that cutting edge they're really missing. And obviously they've been struggling for goals this season, and that seems to be the proof of this game right now. So they've got some work to do to get back into it at 2-0 down at London Stadium currently.
Well, before we go back around the Premier League games, we need to quickly go over to Billy Andrews in Berlin, who's obviously watching Union Berlin v Hoffenheim. It's 1-1 currently. The game's kind of coming to crunch time. Is there going to be a winner?
Well, there almost was for Union, and it was a substitute, Kevin Behrens, with a header that he put agonisingly wide of Oliver Baumann's left-hand post. The ball was whipped in by Geraldo Becker, and he got the glancing header, and it was just ever so slightly wide. But they're massively on top. Hoffenheim struggling to get a foothold in the last 15-20 minutes. Less than 10 minutes to go, still 1-1.
1-1 there. And now we're going to go around the Premier League grounds, and we're going to start with Matthew Key at Leicester v Brighton, because there was a penalty shout there.
Yes, unbelievable scenes here, Josh. I do not know how Brighton and Hove Albion have not been awarded a penalty. It looks an absolute stonewaller, having seen it 3 or 4 times now. It was lovely football from Brighton, and the ball came to Danny Welbeck, who went past Luke Thomas, scooped the ball over his foot. Thomas came in, he's made contact with Welbeck, he's gone for the ball, to be fair, but he's kicked Welbeck, made contact. Welbeck's gone down, looked like a certain penalty, not given. The Brighton players are absolutely incensed. They surrounded Thomas Bramwell, they may be hearing from the FA in the week, but somehow the penalty's not been given. Check's looks to be complete now, looks like it's going to be just a Brighton corner, not a penalty. And in the aftermath of that, Roberto De Zerbi, he's been booked. The referee's gone over to have a word with him due to his protest. He's gone into the book, so it's not a penalty to Brighton. Leicester survived. It's still 1-1 between Leicester and Brighton at the King Power Stadium.
Chaos at the King Power. And Matthew, that game was obviously evenly poised at 1-1. What do both teams need to do to get ahead in that game?
Well, I think both teams are playing the way they'd want, to be honest, Josh. Brighton controlling the game, keeping the ball really nicely, putting together some great passages of play, looking to create chances that way. And for Leicester, they're trying to offer a threat on the counter-attack, which seems to be their best avenue forward. They can't really have much controlled possession in this game, so looks like using the likes of Barnes and Vardy on the break will be their best chance. They've obviously got some good attacking players, the likes of Patson Daka and Nigeria's Kelechi Iheanacho on the bench to offer a bit more pace going forward as this second half progresses.
Well, yeah, thank you for that, Matthew. We can also inform Football Live listeners that Southampton v Aston Villa has kicked off. It is 0-0 in that game so far. We are 2 minutes into the second half. We're 10 minutes into the second half at the Vitality then, where Bournemouth currently Nottingham Forest 1-0. You might be surprised, but Bournemouth, they dominate Nottingham Forest. It's normally been a championship battle that has now become a Premier League rivalry. In the championship, Bournemouth are unbeaten in their past 5 meetings with Nottingham Forest. And if you want to cast your mind back to last year, where Bournemouth secured automatic promotion to the Premier League in this fixture last season, thanks to an 83rd minute winner, thanks to Kiefer Moore. That was crunch time, because whoever won that game would have got automatic promotion to the Premier League. It didn't really matter in the end, because Nottingham Forest got there anyway. But facing their old foes once again, they're 1-0 down in this game. How was the opening 10 minutes gone, Matt?
Well, the opening 10 minutes, again, it's almost the way that the first half started. Again, cagey. They're just sort of trading blows with each other, sort of picking out players, really. It's a quiet first half for Chris Wood, maybe just not getting the space or the opportunities in that first 45. And another man who's maybe had a bit of a quiet first 45 is Brennan Johnson, having a relatively quiet game so far. He started the season very well for Forest, and a little mention on Danilo, who obviously came on just before half-time. Looks quite solid alongside Arel Mangala and Remu Freuler. It's a really strong-looking central midfield triple threat for Forest. The new Bournemouth signing, Dango Altara, has been one of Bournemouth's better players in that first 45, just giving them something slightly different rather than that one-dimensional attack. He's got blistering pace down the wings. Ryan Christie is one that will maybe be looking to improve on his first half performance in the second half. But yeah, 10 minutes into the second half, at the 55th minute, it's Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 0, and it looks to stay that way for the foreseeable.
Matt, quickly on Nottingham Forest then, and also their new signing, Danilo. How do you think that he is going to come into this squad? And I mean, they need a goal right now, but how do you think he'll do?
I think it's a difficult one to see. I think Ryan Yates is the stalwart that can stay in there all the time. I think Steve Cooper doesn't really like to introduce his new signings too early after getting them, but he's been thrown in a little bit at the deep end. They need a goal, and I think if they were to look anywhere, they would have wished and pleaded for Taiwo Iwaniyi to be available for this game. But he didn't make it in time. Danilo's going to have to maybe try and orchestrate something from the centre of midfield. But at the moment, he's supplying Morgan Gibbs-White a lot at the moment in this first 12 minutes, but nothing to no avail at the moment.
What about Chris Wood as well? He is also a new signing. How has he been settling in?
I think he suits the way that they're playing at the moment, Nottingham Forest. I think they're playing when the set pieces are coming in from maybe Morgan Gibbs-White or Brennan Johnson with a wide free kick or a corner, they're sending the likes of, Joe Worrell and Willy Bolly and even Danilo and Chris Wood. So they've got huge bodies in the box for the set pieces. So I think, even though it's a loan, I think it's suited quite well for Steve Cooper's way of playing. And they're really testing Neto and the Bournemouth back four with those lofting balls.
Well, while I have been talking to Matthew, there has been a flurry of chances in the Premier League as we are now 15 minutes into the second half, and these games, they are heating up. We're going to go to Warren Bishop as Southampton and Villa has only just kicked off, but Villa, they're already kind of laying down the gauntlet in this game, shall we say.
Yes, they are, and the blushes are spared for the Southampton goalkeeper, Gavin Bazunu. Straight away from the second half kick-off, Villa player, a long ball down the left-hand side for Ollie Watkins to chase. It's fended off well by Lianco, who plays it back to the Southampton goalkeeper, but he dreadfully, it's no height on his kick whatsoever, plays it straight to Jacob Ramsey, who in turn plays it onto the right side of the box for Leon Bailey. But it's such a tame effort on his weaker right side. We talked about the missing Danny Ings, and are the strikers good enough for Villa? Not there, unfortunately, for Leon Bailey. He's fluffed another chance, but Villa again being wasteful to try and open the score, and it's still Southampton 0, Aston Villa.
How are Aston Villa not in front? Remember, Southampton had the ball in the back of that earlier in the game. That was disallowed for offside. It's the only 0-0 in the Premier League so far. What we would do for a goal. Everton, they need a goal as well. They're 2-0 down to West Ham. They've only had one chance in this second half, and you can make that a second. Isaac, what can you tell us about that?
Everton are really in the ascendancy here. They're playing the ball on the floor more, which is just a much better avenue of attack for them, in my opinion. West Ham's got height in that back three, and it's Alex Iwobi who just skips past his man on the edge of the box. He plays a lovely little through ball. You can't really call it a cross, it's a through ball to Calvert-Lewin, bouncing, and he peels off the back of Kurt Zuma. Just can't quite get a toe on it. The goal was gaping, waiting for that ball to fly in the back of the net, but he can't quite get a big toe on it. And then just after that, Idrissa Gana Gueye, a spectacular hit from the edge of the box. Again, he gets a little bit of room. Everton playing the ball around on the floor. It falls to him. It's a brilliant strike on his right foot, and it forces a massive save out of Lucas Fabianski, who tips it around the post for the corner. Playing the ball on the floor, that's going to be Everton's way of getting into this game with that West Ham height in the back three. But unfortunately for Everton, after 58 minutes, it's still West Ham 2, Everton 0. But good signs.
There's been late-minute drama here in Football Live. It's not in the Premier League, but it's in the Bundesliga because Union Berlin have found a winner. Billy Andrews, it must be absolute jubilation in Berlin.
Well, the Red Bull has gone absolutely wild. It's a second goal from a corner, and it's a second goal for Danilo Duki, a brace. His first two goals for Union Berlin, and they were pressing and pressing from corners in this second half, and they finally paid off. 89 minutes gone. He's onside there from the ball that was played out for the corner. That's what they were claiming. Hoffenheim, they were angry that the corner was given because they thought that Gieselman was offside, but the corner's whipped in. Baumann doesn't get there, and Danilo Duki gets up highest and heads into an empty net. It's Union Berlin 2, Hoffenheim 1.
What can I say? What can I say? Whatever weekend, wherever game we are at, there is always going to be late drama here on Football Live. And there's been more drama in the Premier League because Brighton, they've become absolutely inches from the goal. What happened, Matthew?
Well, Josh, it is one of the misses of the season from Solly March. Brighton started this second half absolutely fantastically. They're knocking on the door. Leicester are just hanging on at the minute. It was a lovely move from the away team. It was Lewis Dunk who found that man again, Mitoma, who sat down his man, pulled the ball back to Solly March, and the goal was gaping. It looked inevitable that he was going to score into what was virtually an empty net with Danny Ward scrambling, but he slipped at the vital moment and connected with the shot. It looped way over the bar in the end. As an absolute sitter, one that he won't want to see again. Still Brighton 1, Leicester 1, but the away team banging on the door now. It's Leicester 1, Brighton 1 at the King Power Stadium.
When you miss a chance as big as that, you always ask, is that team going to regret it? Well, I can inform you, Brighton, they are going to regret it because Leicester have just taken the lead at the King Power. A huge goal in one is Leicester trying to stay up in this game. A third goal in that game. We're not sure who the goal scorer is yet, but as soon as I find out, we will tell you. And actually, I can tell you, it was Harvey Barnes. He loves scoring. He was one short of 200 career league appearances. He scored 48 goals in that game. Make that 49 goals in 200 career league games because he has put the ball in the back of the net and has now put Leicester 2-1 up. Matthew, huge goal for Leicester.
Yes, it's a massive goal for Leicester City. It could be a turning point in their season, and it is Harvey Barnes that has got the goal for the home team. He had a great chance just before Leicester broke away on the counter-attack. Vardy found Barnes, who shot, and it was saved out for a corner. And from that resulting corner, it's Leicester that normally concede from them, but they've scored from one this time. It was whipped in. The ball was allowed to bounce in the box, and there was Harvey Barnes coming in at the back post. He volleys home. Robert Sanchez had absolutely no hope with that one. It was barely inches out from Harvey Barnes. He really couldn't miss, and from Sonny March missing at one end, Leicester have gone down the other, got ahead. 2-1 they now lead, and that could be a huge goal in the season for Leicester City. Leicester 1, Leicester 2, Brighton 1 at the King Power Stadium.
That goal is absolutely massive for Leicester City because today, if they had lost, they would have got their fourth straight home defeat, which would have equaled a Premier League club record. And they also haven't won in 4 Premier League games since the World Cup. Only Bournemouth can equal that. And Brendan Rodgers, before that, had actually had won 4 of their last 5. They've been abysmal since we have returned from World Cup football. But today, they're in front, thanks to Harvey Barnes. And if they can just hang on for the next 25 minutes, they'll be leaving the King Power with 3 points. Forest, though, they're 1-0 down, and they've had a couple of chances to try and go level against Bournemouth.
Yeah, Forest are having a lot more of the ball. They are knocking on the door over and over. Just had a substitution minutes ago. Aurel Mangala has been hauled off, and Gustavo Scarpa has entered the field of play. One of the chances that Forest have had among many. Serge Aurier has bombed down the right wing, and he's entered the box, and he's tried to put a little cutback for Morgan Gibbs-White. It's a dangerous cross, but it's been blocked, and Bournemouth were able to clear. And from that resulting clearance, Kiefer Moore has worked his way towards the Nottingham Forest box, and he's had a shot, and it's just whistled past the post, but it's still Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 0 at the 64th minute.
Well, so far then, Bournemouth, they've conceded 41 goals this season in the Premier League, but only 10 of those have been at the Vitality. For some reason, their defence is just so much better at the Vitality. And Nottingham Forest, well, they're finding it at the moment. They're incredibly frustrated, and they're going to maybe hope to try and find a way through. They've got 25 minutes to do so in that match. Shall we update you then with some scores from around the leagues and around Europe? In the Championship so far then, well, I can let you know how the games are going in that game as the Championship. Well, currently is Preston 2, Birmingham 0, Blackburn are beating Bristol City 1-0, Cardiff are losing to Millwall 1-0, QPR are beating Swansea 1-0, Stoke are beating Reading 2-0, Watford and Rotherham, Watford have pulled one back in that game to make that 1-0, and Luton, well, they've doubled their advantage to make it 2-0 against Wigan. In also as well in the Bundesliga, if we could just update you there, it's Union Berlin who are beating Hoffenheim 2-1 in that game, as that was covered by Billy Andrews. That game's still going on as we are close. 96 minutes added on in half-time. Bochum as well beat Hertha 3-1. Frankfurt beat Schalke 3-0. And Wolfsburg, they thumped Freiburg 6-0. Same can't be said about Stuttgart and Mainz, as that game ended up 0-0 in that game. Remember, coming up later as well in the Bundesliga is FC Cologne v Bremen, and also Atletico Madrid v Valladolid is what maybe Memphis Depay's first ever game. However, there is one last twist in the German Bundesliga. There's one last twist in the Union Berlin game. Is it an equaliser for Hoffenheim, or have Union Berlin doubled their advantage?
Union Berlin. Well, Union Berlin have completely blown them away in this second half. Hoffenheim pushed and pushed and pushed for an equaliser, but on the counter-attack, it's Jamie levelling with a goal in the dying seconds of this game. Embraced by the players and the subs. Fans are going absolutely mental, and of course, there's no reaction from Urs Fischer. A fantastic second-half performance from Union Berlin. A lovely finish from Jamie levelling. He's onside. It's going to finish here. Union Berlin 3, Hoffenheim 1.
Billy, before we obviously let you depart, Hoffenheim have been in terrible form all the way since October. Do you think that this is game over for their manager? Can you see him turning their season around?
I don't think they're going to get rid of... I don't think there's going to... There won't be a change of coach. I think the way Hoffenheim work, they're not a club that get rid of or do that. But Andre Breitenreiter is a well-respected coach. He's a good coach. And if anyone can turn them around, it's Breitenreiter. They're not in a great position, but I think they'll stay up.
Well, there we go. Well, they are. They're falling rapidly. No win then 6th October in that game. It's Union Berlin v Hoffenheim. That game is nearly coming up to 3-1. Union Berlin doubling their advantage in that game. Well, we've been gone though. Isaac has seen a lot of chances for West Ham. Everton in that game, they were knocking on the door. They were looking to find an equaliser. However, they're trying to sting West Ham back. They've had 2 big chances.
Yeah, West Ham just sitting back, absorbing a lot of pressure right now, but they managed to find a breakaway. It's a lovely combination between Emerson and Saïd Benrahma on the left, and Emerson storms forward. None of the Everton back three come across to stop him, and he unleashes a thunderbolt with his left foot, which takes some saving by Jordan Pickford, who pushes it onto the bar, out for a West Ham corner. And then from the resulting corner is Naif Aguerd. I've spoken about the height of that back three for West Ham, and it's in an offensive form this time. He just leaps above his defender, gets a big head on it, great contact, but it just goes over the bar. And West Ham were looking to put the game to bed here, sitting on the break, absorbing that pressure, and just letting West Everton come into that false sense of security, that dominance. And West Ham are looking to counter. At the moment, though, still West Ham 2, Everton 0 at the London Stadium after 66 minutes.
West Ham, they're not lying on their laurels, are they? They're looking to triple their advantage in that game to make it 3-0 in the Premier League. Well, so far, we've only seen 1 goal in the second half. That's coming for Leicester against Brighton, 2-1, thanks to Harvey Barnes. Bournemouth are still winning 1-0 at Nottingham Forest. Southampton and Aston Villa are 0-0. We'll be hearing from Warren Bishop soon. We haven't heard from him for a while. And also West Ham, as Isaac has just said, they are winning 2-0. It's full-time in the Bundesliga. Union Berlin nicking 2 late goals to win 3-1. Here's Billy Andrews with your full-time report.
Yeah, Bundesliga is back, and it's back with a bang on Football Live. Hoffenheim took the lead through Ilash Bibu on the counter-attack. It was a lovely counter-attack goal and a first-time finish from Bibu, who incidentally gave away a penalty earlier in the half, but that was saved by Oliver Baumann. Jordan Sibachau missing that penalty. And then it took the 73rd minute after Union Berlin had been pushing from corners. Danilo Duki finally broke the deadlock for them, and about 20 minutes later he got the winner again from another corner. A little bit of controversy as Gieselman looked to be offside when the ball was played into him as that corner went about, but VAR can't get involved after the fact. And then as Hoffenheim were pushing for a late equaliser, they put everyone up the field, and that left Jamie Leveling able to run through and score in the 96th minute. So the Bundesliga's back. We love it. It finished Union Berlin 3, Hoffenheim 1.
Yes, Bundesliga, we do love it. It's an absolute treat. But I tell you what is even more a treat. It's the Premier League, because it's supplying more goals. And there has been another goal. It's come at St Mary's, and Southampton, after all the odds, after all the Aston Villa bombardment of their goal, well, they have taken the lead at St Mary's. They are now 1-0 up against Aston Villa. That's a huge goal, and Nathan Jones in his career at Southampton, and Southampton's fight for safety. That is 1-0 there to Southampton. We will be with Warren Bishop very soon to bring you all details in that goal. Remember, that game is a little bit behind everyone else. We're only going into the 63rd minute in that game because, obviously, the delay in the game, which means it's a little bit behind the other Premier League ones. We obviously thank you, Billy, for joining us. Fantastic Bundesliga action there. Union Berlin winning 3-1. As I said, the Bundesliga is back. Football Live is always better when it is back. And I can tell you who scored there for Southampton. It is James Ward-Prowse. Who else but Ward-Prowse? I'm not sure whether it was a free kick. Warren Bishop will be able to tell us that in a minute. But for him, he always scores for Southampton, doesn't it? And that means he has scored 4 of Southampton's Premier League goals since the World Cup. He steps up He's their captain. There's no one else Southampton would rather have leading their team, and that is why he does, because he's put them 1-0 up in big moments, in big situations. All you have to do is cast your mind back to a year ago when he scored a fabulous free kick, which saw them win a crunch match against Everton, which has put them 1-0 up, which saw them win 2-1 and 2-1 in that game, and now they're 1-0 up against Aston Villa. Well, let's breathe, ladies and gentlemen. Goals flying in left, right, and centre. I reckon let's take a little bit before we hear from Warren Bishop then. Let's take a little bit of a trip then to the game that's the 5:30 game, because the Premier League doesn't stop when Football Live stops. There is a 5:30 game, and that is Crystal Palace v Newcastle, the tune going all the way down to South London. As for the Crystal Palace lineups, then it's Guaita in goal. It's Joe Ward as the captain, with Guahi lining up against Richards. Richard is replacing Anderson, because Anderson, the Danish centre-back, is injured in that game. You've then got Mitchell as well at left-back, Schlupp in the midfield, with Decore next to him. You've then got Ayew, Eze, Zaha, and Edouard leading the line. Zaha, who could go 7 league appearances without a goal for the first time since 2019. But there's been another twist in this Premier League tie, because the Southampton goal has been ruled out. That is the second time that they have found the goal in this game, and it is the second time that has been disallowed for offside, for another infringement of play. Who knows? Warren Bishop will be able to tell us all too soon. But that now means that game goes back to 0-0. And Aston Villa, they survive another scare. They're still breathing. Will we find a goal in that game? The only goal in the Premier League that hasn't found a game. Not too true, because as I said, the ball's been in the back of the net twice for Southampton, but it has been ruled out twice. We're going to go to Warren Bishop now, then, who can tell us a little bit about that goal and a little bit about why it was ruled offside. Warren, chaos at St Mary's. What happened?
It's absolutely unbelievable. The second time the Southampton have had the ball in the back of the net and it's offside. It's Carl Walker-Peters down the right-hand side. He flips across into the box, which he cleared it right by Mings. He floats the resource one back over his touchdown and shielded back to Ward-Prowse on the edge of the box, who shoots. Takes a massive deflection off Enzo Konza and loops over Emi Martinez. I'm still trying to see why it has been ruled out. We're just seeing the replay of the goal at the moment. But yes, it has been ruled out for an apparent offside. And Southampton fans will be devastated, because they've been poor. They need 3 points in this game, and just he's not on their side at the moment.
Like it's on, not on their side, as they desperately need 3 points in this game. Nathan Jones has been turning things around at St Mary's. They're currently 19th in the table. 3 points in this game. If they have another 2 on the current total, would take them outside the relegation zone, but they just can't seem to break. They can't seem to get the luck that they deserve in this game, and it means it is still 0-0. The Premier League, it never disappoints, and it is always so up and down. We will quickly now, though, go back to that preview of this evening's kickoff. We've gone through the Crystal Palace team news. We will tell you the Newcastle team news that has just come out. It's Nick Pope in goal. It's then Kieran Trippier as the captain at right back, with then Fabian Schär, Sven Botman, and Dan Burn completing that back four. Bruno Guimaraes does start today. There was rumours that maybe he wouldn't be in the team, but that is absolutely huge for Newcastle, because without Guimaraes, they have not won in 3 league games at the tomb. So he is in there. He lines up next to Sean Lockstaff and Joe Willock. Also, Miguel Almiron, Joel Linton, and Callum Wilson line up. Callum Wilson going in there. No Isaac today. He has to settle for a place on the bench. There we go. That's the team news for Crystal Palace and Newcastle. We've also got to talk about then just a little bit about the games. So, as you said, we're not that Crystal Palace have only won 2 of their last 11 Premier League home matches against Newcastle, drawing 4 and losing 5. Palace have won 1 of their last 8 in all competitions. Newcastle, well, they're looking to set a club record of 15 top-flight matches without a defeat, winning 9 and drawing 5, and keeping a clean sheet in their last 5 games in the evening kickoff. Then, if you're looking at those stats, Crystal Palace in really bad form. Newcastle charging and breaching the top 4, looking to cement their place in that, breaching that gap to Tottenham, who play on Monday night. They're currently 5th in the table. Spurs, who come up against Fulham on that Monday night. So really, it looks like there's only one way this game is going to go. However, maybe Crystal Palace have got a little bit of a stride in their step, almost a little bit of a skip in their step after that last-minute Elise free kick against Manchester United. What a brilliant goal. What a brilliant youngster and a a brilliant player Elise is. That's Crystal Palace v Newcastle. That is on then at 6:30. We're now going to head off then. We're going to go back to the Premier League. We're going to go back to the 4 o'clock kickoffs, and we're going to go then to West Ham because they have had another big chance in early this game. It was all Everton. West Ham, they've clawed their way back. They've weathered the storm, and they've also just had another big chance.
Yeah, West Ham probably should be 3-0 up here. It's a brilliant chance for Declan Rice. Again, it's all coming down that left-hand side. West Ham just absorbing a bit of pressure, and then a bit of magic from Saeed Benrahma. Takes 2 players out of the game with a little inside pass to Declan Rice, who does what he does best, drives forward with the ball, takes long strides, makes his way into the penalty area. It's a good dummy run by Danny Ings to take the defender away. He slips past it on his weaker left foot. He just slips it underneath Pickford, and it rolls agonisingly wide of the right-hand post. Probably should be 3-0. It was a tight angle, but you'd expect him to just lift it over Jordan Pickford there and put this game to bed. But with a quarter of an hour left, Everton still playing well, but giving the ball away cheaply. It's West Ham 2, Everton 0 at London Stadium.
We are just 12 minutes away from finding out the respective winners in these Premier League games. So please do not go anywhere because there is always late drama in the Premier League. There is always late goals. There's always twists and turns. So you do not want to stop listening to Football Live. Well, because we don't know what's going to happen. We're now going to go over to Brighton, though, because they've had another chance. They're trying to find the equaliser in that game. How close did they come?
Well, Josh, it's been an absolutely brilliant second half. That Leicester goal has really opened up the game, and despite their best attempts to try and keep things tight, it's not really working for them. Brighton are having all the possession, but to be fair, Leicester offering a lot on the counter-attack. But it's a huge chance for Brighton once again, and winning the ball back from Leicester. They broke really quickly, and Solly March played in. Even Ferguson, the youngster who's come off the bench for Danny Welbeck's already scored 2 goals this season. He's through 1-on-1, just Danny Ward to beat, but it's saved by the Leicester goalkeeper. He seemed to just try and put his foot through it, hit as hard as he can, the Brighton striker. Maybe if he'd have shown a little bit of composure, bit of calmness, then he might have been able to place it, find the corner, but not to be. Good save by the Leicester keeper, Danny Ward, to be fair. But with 10 minutes to go, it looks like it's going to be a thrilling finish at the King Power. It's still Leicester City 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 1.
The other game that only has 1 goal in it, it's Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, they're knocking on the door. We haven't been there in a while. 10 minutes to go. Will they be able to find an equaliser, Steve Cooper's men?
Well, I think he'd hope so. He's had to make 3 changes just to get a bit of fresh legs on. It's Serge Aurier's come off, Nico Williams is on, Chris Wood has been hauled off on his debut. Not a great debut, but I'm sure he'll build on that. Sam Surridge is on for Chris Wood. Willie Bolly has come off, and Scott McKenna is on. 15 minutes plus left of this game, and Forest are now getting a little bit panicky in their attacks as their time runs out, and the possibility of drop points. Dango Utara for Bournemouth has just struck a shot over the bar, but it's still 1-0 to Bournemouth. Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 0 as we enter the 80th minute.
Shall we round up some scores for you then so far in the Premier League so you know where to look? We've got Bournemouth, who are, like as Matthew just said, they're 1-0 up then at Nottingham Forest. Leicester, they're 2-1 up against Brighton at home at the King Power. Southampton and Aston Villa, they are currently 0-0. And West Ham, they are got a comfortable advantage against Everton. But that's not to say Everton won't find a way back in this game. As for the Southampton-Aston Villa game, then, well, Southampton, they had the ball in the back of the net. For the second time in this match, it was disallowed. And Warren can now tell us a little bit more about why that goal did not count.
Yes, so the goal was disallowed, not for offside like I originally thought. It was for a foul from Southampton player on Leon Bailey, I think it was. It was Elliot News. So yes, he stamped on the back of his ankle as the second Walker Peters ball came and floated into the box. To me, again, a little bit soft. That's the 3rd instance now where I personally haven't agreed with VAR's decision to rule out some of the penalty or a goal. So VAR really at the central point of controversy in this game. I mean, if you take a look at the bottom 7 table, Leicester winning, Bournemouth winning, West Ham winning, Nathan Jones will desperately want 3 points from this game, and the fact they've had 2 goals disallowed, that would be really disappointing for him. But 20 minutes ago, just under 20 now, Southampton 0, Aston Villa.
Yes, that game has a little bit longer to go due to the lay-in playoffs. So, I mean, there's more room for twists and turns in the Southampton and Aston Villa game. But while the game's taking place, then we're going to turn our attention to Sunday because there is an absolutely huge game on. I can't think you should have missed it. It is Arsenal v Manchester United. A win for Arsenal could maybe all but seal the Premier League title, but a win for Manchester United, well, it may put them a little bit in to Premier League contention and maybe could get the Mancunians dreaming about Premier League glory. And it was an absolutely brilliant job. But on the other sideline is Mikel Arteta, and this is what he had to say about the clash tomorrow.
I think the history and the clashes and the way those two clubs have competed, it tells you everything that you need to know before a match. It's a huge game in the league, in the country, around the world, and we have to prepare for that. And obviously the table says what it says this season right now, but our main focus is on being prepared for a big match.
What have you made of the job that Erik ten Hag has done so far at Manchester United?
Really impressive. I think he's turned things around pretty quickly. I think he has implemented a very clear way of playing. I think the players seem that they bought into it. They have really good energy around the place. And a lot of things has changed in a very short period of time. So credit to him and the coaching staff for what they've done.
Yes, that is Mikel Arteta there speaking pretty neutrally about the game tomorrow. I mean, there's nothing neutral about it. It's an absolutely huge clash. And you can join that show with Barry Swain, who are reporting live here on Football Live. As for that, then, well, Arsenal, they still remain without Gabriel Jesus and Reece Nelson because of a respective injury and hamstring. And also Gabriel Williams-Saliba and Bukayo Saka are all without all booking away from a suspension. So we did tell you there was going to be goals, and we have got another goal here at Bournemouth. 7 minutes from the full-time whistle. Nottingham Forest have got an equaliser in that game. Ryan Yates already had the goal in the back of the net earlier. Well, he's found it twice, and I think this time it's going to count. Ryan Yates with the equaliser. Heartbreak for Bournemouth. They needed 3 points, kind of lavishing outside the relegation zone in 15th to stop their free fall. Well, for Nottingham Forest, they're continuing their brilliant form. They've got that goal. It stands, and Bournemouth are level with Nottingham Forest. We will get over to Matt Smith shortly when he's seen the goal. We can go to Matt Smith now. Huge goal for Nottingham Forest.
It's a massive goal, and it's finally, they've been knocking for a good portion of this second half. It starts with Scarpa, who then loses the ball, unfortunately, but it falls to Morgan Gibbs-White, who chips the ball over the top of the Bournemouth defence to Brennan Johnson, and Brennan Johnson whacks it across the goal. I think he might have been shooting, but, I don't think he'll say that. I think he'll say it was a cross, and it's Sam Surridge, the substitute that's just come on for Chris Wood, who taps it in. It's Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1 after 84 minutes.
It's a goal for Nottingham Forest, and it's also a goal for Aston Villa against Southampton. Southampton, they've had the ball in the back of the net twice in that game, but Villa, they probably dominated a lot of the proceedings, had a lot more chances in the 90 minutes of football. And on the 77th minute, they have got the lead in this game. Unclear who it is right now, but all you need to know is Aston Villa are in front. And as it stands, they'll be snatching 3 points away from Nathan Jones and his men. That is Southampton 0, Aston Villa 1. 13 minutes to go in that game. Wow, let's breathe. Ollie Watkins with the goal in that game as well. If you are wondering, a huge goal. We were all the questions about Danny Ings. Was it right that Unai Emery let Danny Ings go? Well, as long as Watkins is finding this scoring feat and continuing his scoring form, they're going to have no issues. And because of that, they are in front at St Mary's. 12 minutes to go. I was going to finish off my preview, and we'll do it quickly again. Arsenal v Manchester United tomorrow. That's a huge game, and this will be the third time Arsenal have hosted Manchester United in a Premier League match while top of the table. The two previous meetings ended 1-1 and 2-2, so maybe expect another draw in that game. As for the rest of the games then, well, we have Leeds United versus Brentford. Leeds record signing Georgino Ritter could start in that game. Leeds have won just twice in 15 Premier League matches, while Brentford on a club record run of 7 Premier League matches unbeaten. And the final Sunday game as well is Manchester City v Wolverhampton. Pep Guardiola could have a fully fit squad to choose from. Pablo Sarabia as well is available for Wolves after moving to PSG. And a little fact for you here, Wolves have only scored 12 goals this year, 10 fewer than Erling Haaland. really says a lot about Wolves' situation. That they've got a new manager in, they've got Julian Lopetegui in, but we've got another goal in the Premier League, and this time it's a Brighton who have equalised late on at Leicester. Just when you thought Leicester would get the 3 points they desperately needed, Brighton, they have snatched back for the second time in this game. That's absolutely huge for them. Remember, Leicester had to come from behind. Brighton, though, they were never done. They were never finished. Pablo De Zerbi's men, they love to score goals. Evan Ferguson was the man who got the goal that time, an unconventional scorer, not a man he used to seeing on the score sheet. But the most important thing is he has got on it, and he has brought Brighton level in that game. We're now going to head over to Warren Bishop at St Mary's. Tell us a bit more about that Aston Villa goal.
Yes, Nathan Jones has his hands clasped in his lap. He's absolutely fuming at what's just happened. It's a free kick from the right-hand side for Aston Villa. Douglas Luiz, peach of a delivery. But where was the Southampton marking? Centre of the box, 10 yards out. A free header for Ollie Watkins. No mistake. He heads it past Bazunu for his 5th goal of the season. Danny Ings leaving, no problem for Villa. They are 1-0 up here at St Mary's, and they're on their way to a 3rd successive away win. Just about 12 minutes to go. It's Southampton 0, Aston Villa 1.
What a job Unai Emery has done, hasn't he, at Aston Villa? He's been absolutely brilliant. He's completely turned their fortunes around. They were absolutely languishing near the bottom of the table under Steven Gerrard. Emery's come in, and they have 11 goals since he took charge. That's as many as they managed in the 13 matches before his arrival. Ollie Watkins getting the 12th goal in 14 matches for Unai Emery. But now, Brighton, as I said, found a late-minute equaliser. Matthew Key can tell us all about it.
Yes, that's right, Josh. The 88th minute, and Brighton and Hove Albion have equalised, and you must say it has been deserved. The pressure from the Seagulls has been absolutely relentless ever since Leicester took the lead, really, and they finally got their equaliser. And it's Evan Ferguson, the young striker, once again 18 years old. It's already his 3rd Premier League goal of the season, and it's an absolute cracking header. As I say, pressure's been relentless, and it's Estupinian down the left-hand side. He whips an unbelievable crossing, and it was Ferguson at the near post, got across his man, headed it down off the post, and agonisingly for Danny Ward in the Leicester goal. He could only watch it kiss the post and go in to the corner. It's no less than Brighton have deserved, really. This, again, wild celebrations from De Zerbi. He has to be careful because he has already been booked, but I don't think he was worried too much about that. We're just about to enter stoppage time here. Will there be even more drama? It wouldn't surprise me. It's been such a good game. But yeah, equaliser for Brighton. It's now Leicester City 2, Brighton Hove Albion 2 at the silent King Power Stadium now.
The King Power absolutely shocked. They thought they were on for their first win in 4 games. Not with Evan Ferguson about. Not if he had to say anything about it. And he has brought equaliser there. Thank you, Matthew Kay, for that. Let's breathe, because we have an absolutely phenomenal last minute action here in Football Live. Bournemouth v Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest finding an equaliser at the Vitality Stadium. As Matthew had just said there, Brighton getting a last minute equaliser at the King Power Stadium. Aston Villa have just taken the lead then at St Mary's, thanks to Ollie Watkins. That's after Southampton had the ball in the back of the net twice. Aston Villa, though, they don't care. They're 1-0 up. And then maybe the most calm game, the calm in the storm, because West Ham and Everton, West Ham are beating Everton 2-0. That game seems a little bit done. We haven't heard from Isaac Dilks in a while. Isaac, is the game pretty much dead and buried?
I think so now, Josh. Yeah, it's been a tale of 2 managers this second half. I mean, the experienced David Moyes, he's brought on Thomas Souček, Flynn Downs and Ben Johnson at left back as well, just to shore things up, just to make sure they manage this game to a win. And it's still Jared Bowen's brace that separates the 2 sides. I feel a little bit for Everton, I do, because they play some good stuff. They just haven't had that cutting edge in the final third. They've been camped out in West Ham's half for a majority of the second half. They've had a lot of possession, a lot of the ball, but they just couldn't find any openings. I suppose that's testament to West Ham's aerial dominance and physicality. They've managed this game so well, like I've said, and it looks to be a slightly boring finish here at London Stadium, unfortunately for Everton, as the cries of "you're sacked in the morning" ring around the London Stadium, referring to Frank Lampard. We've just got into stoppage time. It's still West Ham 2, Everton 0.
So there's 4 minutes added on Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. 4 minutes added on between Leicester and Brighton. Both games evenly poised as we go in to the final few minutes. We're going to go to the Vitality Stadium first. It's 1-1 there. Are we going to find a winner?
Well, it's game on. Forest are really upping the tempo once again in these last minutes. They're looking for a winner. You wouldn't put it past them, but a draw is the minimum Forest deserve for their second half performance. Gary O'Neill will be absolutely furious with his side at this rate. Maybe a little bit too late for Steve Cooper's Nottingham Forest, but we'll have to wait and see. We're the 92nd minute. It's Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1.
2 minutes left to play in that game. Anything can happen in 2 minutes. Anything can also happen in 2 minutes in Leicester, in the King Power. We've just heard from Matthew Key. It's 2-2 in that game. Are we going to get another last-minute goal for either of those teams?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, Josh, but I would say it would be harsh on either team to come away with nothing here. It's both teams been looking for 3 points the whole way through. Neither team been happy with the draw, but that looks like that might be what they have to settle with. Been an excellent game. At 1-1, Leicester rung the changes. They brought the likes of James Maddison on. They brought on Daka once they'd gone 2-up, so never sort of resting on their laurels, but the pressure from Brighton just told in the end. They've been absolutely fantastic, responded brilliantly to going behind. Once again, they brought the changes, the likes of Lamptey on, and of course the main man himself, Evan Ferguson, coming off the bench for Danny Welbeck to nick what looks like it's going to be an equaliser and a point on the road for Brighton. We've got about mere seconds remaining here, so final whistle inevitable, although free kick in a good position for Leicester. We'll see if James Maddison can work some magic here, but for the minute it looks like it's going to finish in a draw. It is Leicester City 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 2.
We need more last minute action. Let's pray to the footballing gods because we need one last minute goal. Let's not have it done yet. And now we're saying let's not have it done yet. It is finished though at West Ham Everton. That game has ended 2-0. Huge victory for David Moyes. Could be the last end of the reign, the last embers of his reign for Frank Lampard. As for Leicester and Brighton, that game has just finished 2-2 in that game. That's full time. Leicester and Brighton equally sharing in the points. The game is still going on between Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. So there's a last minute goal there. Don't worry, we will bring it to you. Before we wrap up and go with the full time reports, let's just quickly hear from Warren Bishop. We've got like 3 minutes left in that game. Can Southampton get an equaliser?
Well, we'll soon see that they're starting to pile the pressure on, and Nathan Jones has gone for it with more substitutions. He's brought Gineppo and Mislav Orsic on for the final few moments. Meanwhile, for Villa, Leon Bailey makes way for Mati Cash as Unai Emery looks to hold what they have with this 1-0 lead. But what an opportunity that is going by for Nathan Jones' side, with teams around them winning, having the ball in the net twice, now behind with some terrible defending. It's been quite the poor afternoon for Nathan Jones and the Southampton side. But 4 minutes to go. It remains Southampton 0, Aston Villa 1.
Yes, it's still Aston Villa 1-0. There's still going to be a few minutes left on that clock there because obviously the delay in the play means it's a little bit behind his other Premier League games. We've also had full time in the Bournemouth Nottingham Forest game. We had last minute action all over the place, which has brought us to the results we've had now. We're going to start at the London Stadium though with West Ham, who defeated Everton comfortably in the end with 2 first half goals. Here is Isaac Dill to tell us more.
Jarrod Bowen's brace separates the two sides at full time here at the London Stadium. It's a really assured performance from West Ham. There was a spell of Everton dominance just after the half-time break, but David Moyes managed the game excellently well, and you can see why he's been so successful there the last couple of years. Unfortunately, Frank Lampard's Everton, they just looked devoid of ideas in the final third, constantly crossing the ball in, and I explained that aerial dominance from West Ham was just so plain to see, and they had to come up with something a little different. They were too one-dimensional to really find any way to break the duck for them. Unfortunately, those West Ham defenders are going to have some ice bags strapped to their heads after this game. Numerous headers away, absolute stalwart defending from Ogbonna, Nair and Ben Johnson at the back. It was brilliant stuff. So full time at London Stadium, finishes 2-0 to West Ham against Everton.
It was 2-2 between Leicester and Brighton. A last minute goal from Megan Ferguson meant the spoils were shared. Here's your full time report.
Yes, that's right, Josh. And brilliant advert for the Premier League this game. 2 attacking teams going for nothing less than 3 points, but it's honours even at the end. 2-2 between Leicester and Brighton. It was the away side that took the lead. one to keep an eye out for, Mitoma's goal to open the scoring, one to find on the highlights, an absolute brilliant strike into the top corner from outside the box. Leicester hit back though. It was Harvey Barnes that found the equaliser in the second half, and they went. It was Harvey Barnes that put Leicester ahead in the second half after Mark Albrighton had equalised after a bit of a goalmouth scramble. But Brighton weren't done, and it was Evan Ferguson with 2 minutes to go that got the equaliser for the away team. Both sides have now turned to FA Cup action, with Brighton facing Liverpool, who they comfortably beat last week. Of course, Liverpool will be looking for revenge at the Amex, and Leicester face League 2 Walsall. And one just to note is that fans of Bournemouth may be happy to hear that Alexis McAllister picked up his 5th yellow card of the season, so will miss the game between Bournemouth and Brighton in the next round of Premier League fixtures. Full time at the King Power Stadium. Really enjoyed this one. It's finished Leicester City 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 2.
That's Matthew Key, and let's go over to our resident Matthew as well here, who's listening to the Bournemouth Nottingham Forest game that ended 1-1. Let's hear it.
I think both managers will be a little bit disappointed with the result for different reasons. Forest would have loved a win to keep their upward trajectory going. Bournemouth would have desperately wanted a win. But a point apiece though, and it's finished Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1.
Thank you, Matthew, for that. Well, what a brilliant Saturday of Premier League action. It has not disappointed. Early started with Liverpool 0, Chelsea 0. It was then Bournemouth 1, Forest 1, Leicester 2, Brighton 2, Southampton 0, Aston Villa 1, and West Ham 2, Everton 0. Don't forget to tune into tomorrow as well with the Sunday's game, and also as well, Aston Villa and Southampton. That's still going on. Don't forget, it's Aston Villa 1, Southampton 0. But we've got 4 minutes left. Keep tuned for that game. Well, it's been a fantastic day here on Football Live. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. Thank you to my brilliant team of reporters. Again, Barry Swain tomorrow for the massive Arsenal-Man United game. That's going to be absolutely huge. And also our preview show that will be on later in the week with former Premier League player Chris Hargreaves. It has been brilliant. Tune in tomorrow. I'll be back Sunday evening. Good night.